And now, weighing in out of the blue corner, Josh the Punk Thompson. 100% agree. And on the other mic, he weighs in from the red corner, Big John McCarthy.
Well, hello to everyone. Again, we are back, the Weighing In podcast with Josh the Punk Thompson and myself, John McCarthy. We don't have a lot to talk about as far as current fights, so we're going to go back in history a little bit. Josh, I think we got a surprise guest, and we got two surprise guests. Let's think about this. I'm sorry. Talk to me, brother. What's up?
It's going to be great to hear all this stuff. There's a lot of buzz right now with one of our guests and the next guest after that, which is someone who knows the history of the sport of the first guest and everything he's brought to the table and into this sport. And look, for those of you guys that have been seeing the stuff on social media going around, you guys need to understand there's a lot of backstory, and we just try to break it down. Like, there's not an argument here. This is a conversation that needs to be had, and that's all it is. We're not arguing. We're just talking about the history.
We are the purveyors of truth.
Yes,
we are
just here to share our knowledge to you guys in a very in-depth perspective on what we feel, and not just how what we feel, but what we know about the sport. And we've brought people along the way that will help you guys understand the knowledge maybe better than we will. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this show.
Well, every now and then you get to actually introduce someone that you know is a living legend, and we have got one on the podcast today. We have got the prodigy, BJ Penn, a man who is a trendsetter, a guy that has been there, done that, a guy that would fight anybody of any size at any time, anywhere. And I'm thankful that he is in such a beautiful place like he is in Hawaii, not having to be with Josh Thompson in San Jose. No one wants to be there. That's a horrible place to be. What's up, BJ?
What's going on, Big John? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, brother. It's great to see you, man.
Hey, I jumped on the call earlier and I thought we were live, but I just want to say to the world, I knew I made it when I was in the octagon and Big John walked in front of me and said, "You ready? You ready? Let's get it on." Because, right, Josh, that's all we ever saw. And on the other side, real quick, catching everybody up. Me and Josh started together 20 years ago at AKA, so we all know each other pretty well, us three.
Yeah, it's funny because John said, he goes, "Yeah, you don't want to be there with Josh in San Jose." BJ fucking hated San Jose. He couldn't wait to. He hated San Jose. He's like, "Bro, there's no good looking women around here. The clubs are shitty." He's like, "There's nothing to do. It's like everyone's working." He's like, "This place sucks." He fucking hated it. The first chance he could get to go back to Hilo or go back to Hawaii, he's like, "I'm fucking out of here, bro." So it was either back to Hawaii or it was down in LA, like in the Orange County area, Costa Mesa and all those areas. He would always just bounce and be out. We never really saw him outside of like just training. He'd come train, go eat, go back, train again, bounce out. Be like, "Hey, what are you doing later?" Nothing. There's nothing to do around here. He hated San Jose. It's funny, man. But yeah, good. You're right though.
Josh knows pretty well. Josh has come down, helped me train for fights and everything. So Josh is no stranger to this place that you see behind too.
I love Hilo, man. I love that style of just relax, chill, and you can walk down. You live like right down the street from that little downtown area there. Couple nice little spots to eat right down the street, and then, your families all just live like kind of right, like a couple houses away, right? JD lives, I don't know if he's moved since, but he's like, he lives right there. See, right behind me, and then, and then you had just, I think, bought the house that you're probably in right now, I think, and then Reagan was living in the house, the one that your parents built right behind the house there. So I think he was living up there. We were all kind of crashing there at the time, helping you train, man. Good stuff. I've been out there a couple times to help you train. I think first time was for the GSP second fight, and then we did for the Matt Hughes, I think third fight it was. So we went out there a bunch of times.
Rory McDonald too.
Oh, Roy, that's right, the Roy fight too.
So
yeah, we had some good times, man. We had good times, and jeez, man, what was it? We went to Verna's, the little food. With Verna's, and the food there, Big John. Not good for you, but it was good. It was good. Between training sessions with a little bit of some the mac and cheese with the gravy and it was not good for you, but it was great. It was good, tasted good.
So
So
it's got some real authentic Hawaiian style drive-in. If you want to go for like that real Hawaiian style, almost museum type. I mean, they just got everybody in Hilo's got the same menu, so it's just whose food you want to eat that day.
yeah. Well, remember we went out there. Kaushik was out there with us one time. It was funny. Kaushik was out there a couple days before me, John.
Yeah.
So then they all were there training for a couple days before me. And so what happened was BJ takes Kaushik to the first time to a freshwater spring, and they're all jumping off the trees, but they don't tell Kaushik the water's ice cold in the freshwater springs because you're right there by the ocean. You're thinking it's the same ocean water. It's like the same, kind of Hawaiian water, like Hawaiian warm water. No. He jumped in. He was telling me the story. He was trying to think that I didn't know that already, but I'd been out there before and I'd went swimming in those freshwater springs. I knew what I was getting myself into. I jumped in. I came up like no big deal. He's like, it's cold, huh? I was like, bitch, I fucking knew already. You acted like he was all surprised. He's like, oh, you knew? Okay. But because Koss, he just doesn't like cold water. He just doesn't. It was just funny. I was laughing my ass off. We had some good times, man.
As we're getting into it, they were like fighting while they were training.
People don't know that. Like Alan Goes and Kaushik were almost like in a fist fight a couple times. He was getting pissed off because Alan Goes was trying to go hard, trying to sweep him and trying to up kick him a little bit and stuff like that. And Kaushik's like, hey, motherfucker, I'm getting ready for a fight. They almost came to blows a couple times. We had to separate them a couple times. It was funny, man.
Big John knows. Knows.
Hey, here, I'll give you the first story. My first BJ story is the very first fight I ever did of BJ's was against Dean Thomas. It was in New Jersey at the Meadowlands. And they put everybody on these buses to take us back. And I'm sitting down. BJ, had a super impressive performance. And he walks on the bus and he looks at me, comes up to me, says, hey, Mr. McCarthy, I just want you to know I've been watching you since I was a kid. I go, thanks, BJ, right?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, see you later, right? He goes back. I was like, I'm so fucking old. And I wasn't even old back then.
I can't believe people tell me that, man.
Yeah.
Now you know.
Then you know.
It's funny, right? Like people will tell me the same thing. Like, I'm sure they tell you, like, they're like, oh man, like, bro, I used to watch you when I was like, I was in middle school. And I'm like, yeah, I watched you in the UFC or I watched you in Strikeforce when I was like middle school. And I'm like, man, to me, that doesn't seem very long ago. And I'm like, how old are you? Like, oh, I'm 20 years old, 21. I'm like, damn, man, I'm so old. So
I don't know what happened. It got to us all, huh?
Oh, yeah. Always, man. Wait, one time I had my gym and I get BJ to be able to come out and he's going to do a seminar at my gym. So I go to pick him up now, set up the flight and everything, right? Get, all that stuff. So I go to LAX to pick BJ up. BJ didn't tell me he was bringing somebody else. So I picked BJ up in a Corvette, right? And his friend, who was your friend?
Who was with us? I was just going to this seminar that we did at your place.
Yeah.
Who that time?
It was one of your...
The guy, was it Tom Callis? Was it the guy who got me involved with
No.
BJ?
No. He was small, thank God, because he was in the trunk of the Corvette going down the 405 freeway.
In the trunk.
Oh yeah, that's the only place I could put him.
Was it Niza? Hey, was it Niza? Because Niza was a small guy.
I think this was this was a long. What year was this? This was what?
Oh, 2007, 2008.
2008.
Yep. You had just started bjpenn.com. He was part of that, I know. But it was hysterical.
Gotta be Scott.
Oh, yeah. Scotty. White, was he a white guy?
Yep.
Yeah, probably Scotty from On the Mat, right? Remember Scotty from On the Mat was with you?
Oh, yeah. Scotty was around. He was from San Jose, remember?
Yeah.
Who else was from San Jose? I remember he was one of the first guys I ever grappled was Sean Shelby.
Ah. Yeah, he lived in San Jose. Remember he did the Shogun promotion in Hawaii at the when we all stayed at the
Oh, yeah.
Ala Moana. And yeah, I remember that. And then that was when they had that stack card. Like I fought Kid Yamamoto. I think Eves was on there. BJ Penn was a Cabbage was on there. There was a lot of guys on that card.
Unbelievable fights. If you think about it now, a card like that, right? That was unbelievable. And who Cabbage fought Aaron Brink or something like that.
Yeah. No, he ended up fighting. Remember he ended up fighting Dennis the Menace, I think, because or no, was Dennis the Menace on
Dennis
there?
the Menace.
There was a guy named Dennis the Menace. I think he was from Hawaii also. Another Hawaiian kid.
Brink or something. And then it got, or did he knock out, was it? I think it might have been Brink. But
Maybe
Brink
it was.
He was kind of off.
Maybe.
Yeah. You remember that guy? Big John?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, Aaron Brink, he was a porn star. Come on.
He was kind of.
Aaron Brink fought Andre Arlovsky in the UFC. Did that fight. He got armbarred by Andre Arlovsky.
Wow. Man, hey, Arlovsky, he impresses me. I mean, he's still out there. He's still got a contract.
Heavyweights. Unbelievable.
Yeah, they can last forever.
He stays there. I mean, enough to keep his contract, right?
Yep.
I mean,
right? He's as old as us.
every time he's right at that moment of you got to win this, he wins it.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah. That's amazing to me.
You know, there's those fighters, right, that the promotion is just trying to get rid of, but they can't. He's that guy, bro. I love watching him fight because he either goes out on his shield or he like beats people. Yeah. I mean, you can't be mad at that. I'm not mad at the way he fights, man. I actually enjoy still watching him fight. Some of the older school guys, I just enjoy watching fight because they don't throw. They just wait. They wait for shit to happen. You know, but him, he still goes. He still gets after it. He either gets knocked out or he tries to knock you out. I can't be mad at that type of guy. No one can be mad at that type of guy.
No matter what. He's the real Leonidas.
Yeah. All right. So hey, I gotta jump into these questions right here, man. One of the questions is obviously there's a lot going on right now in terms of people are trying to compare the BJ Penn and Khabib, comparison. And I'm gonna be honest, man. Like I've trained with both of you guys. I think you guys are both dominant in your own ways. And you and I were texting a lot today, back and forth. Even before I was gonna talk to you about you coming on the show, we were just texting back and forth. And I'm like, hey man, like stylistically, I think you in your prime and then him in his prime, it would have been a great fight to see. But everyone keeps going back to, oh, well, he lost to Frankie. Frankie's a good wrestler, a better wrestler or not as good a wrestler as Khabib. I said, what you have to remember is that you'd already been the welterweight champ. You'd already fought Gomi and beat Gomi. You'd already fought Renzo, Rodrigo. You'd already fought Lyoto. You'd already fought all around the world in all the biggest promotions. And you came back, and then you'd already been the lightweight champion as well. You'd already been the lightweight champion several times and defending and beating all the guys that everyone said that you couldn't beat. Sean Shirk, Diego Sanchez. He's got problems with cardio. Put Diego in there. Kenny Florian was a better stand-up guy. Was going to pick you apart, and his jiu-jitsu was just as good. Sean Shirk was going to wrestle you and just scrap and just.
Who said his jiu-jitsu was just as good?
That was a lot of talk. There was a lot of talk during that time. Remember, there was a lot of talk during that time. He's on the ground. Come on. You know what I mean? And so that's the thing. People want to compare those things. And I'm not taking anything away from Khabib, man. And John and I have said this several times, and nothing against you, BJ, at all. But the most dominant fighter at 155 pounds has been Khabib. And maybe you can agree with that. Maybe you don't. Yeah. But he's been the most dominant fighter at that weight class. But when it comes to someone that went out of their way to pick fights with other people, I don't think I've ever met anybody else like you. That has gone, you didn't just go out and pick fights. You actually went out there and got into them with guys, like you were like, hey, you know what? Everyone thinks that GSP is the best guy. You didn't have to fight GSP. You could have fought somebody else and defended the title or came back and not fought, and fought somebody else to work your way up or whatever it was. You never took the easy way out. And so I just wanted to get your take on what your thoughts were with the Khabib conversation right now.
I do enjoy Khabib, watching him fight and everything. But I do 100%. I wonder why he left so early. You know, I mean, we all get, like you said, I mean, of course, I feel like I had 3 careers because you get burned out and then you got to try to spark something new, you know what I mean? And come back again and then try it. And the lightweight ended up being my last successful jump. But then you know, you try to keep sparking it over and over, right? But that's what, I mean, your education is based on your appetite. It's how hungry you are and everything. And I mean, you can only talk about the 2 guys when they were at their most, you know, hungriest and they were at their best. And that's the only way. But I do wonder, but I do think that it would be it is tougher for his style to go up, because I don't know, I haven't grappled with him, but I think that when you get into those higher weights and you're fighting somebody like Usman, sooner or later, you're going to find yourself on your back with your head against the fence. And if you're a small guy, you got to know what to do. And that is what I always thought. And that's why all 3 of us here are jiu-jitsu black belts, because that's self-defense. You're walking down the street, the little old lady's the one who's going to get picked on, and she's got to know what to do, right? And I've always believed that, and that's what martial arts is. And then that's why and from also always grappling and doing the absolute division, it wasn't a question. You were going to grapple somebody 250 pounds that day. It was just later in the day that was going to happen. That was just a known fact when you went there. So it was always for us, you know, right? We've always been around it. We've saw this sport be born off it with Hoist, and we started doing all this stuff, and we're just in love with it like everybody else.
Are you still in love with MMA? Are you active in watching the guys that are the champions now and all the different weight classes and stuff? Or do you just like every now and then you get to see a fight?
I go on bjpenn.com. Yeah, every now and then I'll watch a fight, but I'll know who the champions are. I mean, the last fight that I got really, really excited about was Daniel Cormier and John Jones too. Like, where I was like, oh, these are the 2 best guys that are going to fight. They're going to be in the ring, you know. But I don't even know if I got to watch it, but I remember, the good fighters and the good ones I know, like I know Adesanya's the champ and stuff, but the new contenders I don't really get to see as much.
Yeah, so to run it back a little bit on what you were talking about with the Khabib thing, like I've trained with him. He's phenomenal in terms of wrestling. And like I said, when the comparison comes between the 2 of you, the one thing is like, I knew your takedown defense, and when you were on point, and like John has seen and talked about with Matt Lindland, him being an Olympic silver medalist and struggling to get you down, struggling to deal with your jiu-jitsu, that level. Even Randy Couture talking about struggling with your jiu-jitsu, even though he's was a lot bigger guy than you. And I've seen you over the years with guys like Bobby Southworth, Trevor Prangley, guys who were just good strikers, heavy wrestlers, and good jiu-jitsu guys, and you were able to stuff everything they did, do all the things. Those are the things that I see Khabib do as well to all these other types of fighters as well. So when I'm not trying to compare you guys in the fact that like together, you guys are the top 2, and there's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt. Now, however you guys want to put each other 1 and 2, I don't give a shit. That's up to you guys. Okay, but when it comes down to it, stylistically, you guys match up very well. Your jiu-jitsu game against his wrestling would have been one of the best things I would have loved to have seen, as well as your takedown defense with your flexibility and dexterity and all the things, the way he takes people down. It would have posed a lot of threats for him. On the feet, I think you have the bigger punching power. Actually, no, you have the bigger punching power, you know, during that time. Your boxing was a little bit more clean and crisp. Just ask Carl Uno, okay, and things like that. But he's got power as well. He's got speed. He's not afraid to throw his hands. He's got a great chin. You had a great chin. It makes for a great fight. That's really what I want to. Comparing you guys is not the issue. It's comparing you guys past the 155-pound division, where I think people are getting lost. And I think that's where you're at. You said it yourself. He's never had to be on the bottom of guys like Usman, like you were with Matt Hughes and GSP.
Oh man, yeah. I remember when Hughes got me down that one time, and he was so mad because I was talking so much crap about how I beat him. I remember him lifting his elbow up, and it came down. It didn't hit me, but it came down with such force that it hit the elbow. And he was trying to kill me.
That he hit the ground, because I was in the ring with you, and I was like, "Oh, thank God that didn't hit him."
Literally, yeah, he was trying to kill me, the guy.
And so what makes you think, or what's your take on how would he have done against guys that were good, like guys like Colby Covington, who are great wrestlers, guys like Usman, who are great wrestlers? You could say guys like Vicente Luque, who has got good stand up, he's got decent takedown, guys that are making their run to the top. And then to even say, if we went to 185, I mean, you fought Rodrigo Gracie, you fought, Henzo, those guys were bigger than the guys at 170, so like, what's your take on that?
My guard work when I fought Lyoto, I had to be in my guard 2 or 3 times. I forget how much times, but no, my take on, I do wonder, because I watch him and I watch and it looks sometimes like he gets tired, or he's just kind of holding the guy on the fence, because it doesn't, I don't know. I'm not as great of a wrestler, so I don't want to say anything bad, but it doesn't look like he's as smooth as like a Daniel Cormier when he's on there, as far as getting the takedown is quick. But he stays on there, and eventually he does get the takedown. I see him get things, but it looks like he gets tired and holding the guy on the fence and going for the takedowns. But I could be wrong. I don't know. You could say, hey, it does feel like Daniel Cormier up there, or whatever. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
John, I mean, John, you've been in the cage with Khabib, and when it comes down to it, his wrestling, it's a different style, and I've gotten a lot of flack for this, right, John, with the whole different style of wrestling. You sound like you look like you got something you want to say. Go ahead, John.
No, it's just, I'm the one that said, I've always said that the most dominant fighter, as far as every round that I ever was in the cage with him, where he dominated his opponents, where he, it was 10-8 rounds most of the time, was Khabib. And it was, and when you're close, just like you're talking about, fighters talk all the time, and he's talking to his opponent the entire time, and he's mentally breaking them down. And I always said that BJ, you were the one. I said, if I could take a fighter and say, this is the skill set you want for MMA, it's BJ Penn, a guy that's got an iron chin, a guy that's got power in his hands, a guy that's got incredible jiu-jitsu, a guy who was never a wrestler, but can wrestle his ass off in keeping the fight where he wants it to be. And that's why when Josh is saying, the 2 best lightweights, I go with the fact you went in a different fashion. Khabib went down the road of, I'm going to be a lightweight. I'm going to be the best lightweight in the world. He made it. You went in the direction of, I want to be the best fighter in the world. I don't care what weight it's at. I want to prove that my skill set is better than everyone else's. And that's what took you on your path. And, at a certain point in your career, you were unbeatable. That after the Jens Pulver, which was, I think, your 4th fight ever. After that, you learned something in that fight, because, fighting is about being able to control the pace and everything. And you went on a tear after that fight, where you were just remarkable in the way that you would control guys and just put people in bad positions and stuff. So, I mean, it's an amazing contrast as far as you guys are different, but you were both just incredible at the way you went about the fight game.
What would you, BJ, let me ask you this. What's the difference between our generation? I put myself in your generation, the two in that generation of us fighting, between that generation and this generation.
She's, I mean, all of it. I guess maybe it's that social media stuff, or I don't know, but it's the I think it's just because even GSP didn't want to lose. You know what I mean? Even because he would have been. We never got to see him on his back with a freaking Quentin Rampage Jackson pushing his forehead into his face and back to the fence. You know what I mean? Even he didn't want. It's almost the same thing. It's very similar to Khabib. They both don't want that. And then, I mean, who would want that? You know what I mean? Moron would want that, right?
I know some crazy guy from Hilo, Hawaii. He would want that, right?
Who would want 1 million people watching that happen to you, right?
I mean, like, I wanted to see like the comparison in terms of, I get social media has changed the dynamic of how these fighters promote themselves. And there's a lot more criticism now because the internet has taken off so much, people forget that we're kind of in the beginning stages of the internet. So it wasn't as popular when we were getting beat or when we were smashing other guys. They're like, it was all still kind of word of mouth. Now, I swear the fight ends. There's a video up for millions of people to see within seconds.
Yeah.
And so that's changed the way people, they don't want to go to different weight classes. They don't want to take those chances of being embarrassed.
You know what? After I already fought Hughes and Koscheck was down here and he was just about to do his first Ultimate Fighter. We were all here. It was that time, and no one even knew that I beat Matt Hughes yet. As soon as that Ultimate Fighter thing went, maybe one or two more Ultimate, maybe two or three, everybody knew I beat Matt Hughes. Wherever I go, hey BJ Penn, BJ. I was already Japan and back.
Yeah.
Before that all happened. Crazy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's what I was trying to remind people. I'm like, look, because the legacy after you left, right, the UFC, then you went. Remember, you did Rumble on the Rock, and I was there for the Gomi fight. And I tell people, I'm like, you have to remember that it was widely talked about that Takanori Gomi was the best lightweight in the world. They were talking that he was like the best guy. You guys paid to have him brought over to fight you in Rumble on the Rock. You guys, and so when you brought him, I remember sitting at the rules meeting. And they were asking for because the original, it was normally the rules were going to be just the normal, what do they call them? The unified rules. And then he started asking for knees on the ground. You're like, and I remember you sitting there with one leg over, your flexibility, putting one leg over your hip. And you're like, yeah, whatever he wants. And then he wanted to add elbows. He's like, yeah. And then BJ just shook his head. He's like, yeah, whatever you want. And he just kept looking at him, staring him in the eye. BJ's like, yeah, whatever he wants. I don't care. You want head stomps too? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, whatever you want. It was whatever they wanted. BJ's like, yeah, let's do it. But he was supposed to be the guy who had good wrestling with knockout power. And I remember the beginning of the second round, you threw that left hook right into that big double leg. And after that, you could just see Gomi, he showed that he was tough and there was no quit in him, but you just destroyed him and dismantled him after that. And then it was widely known that you were just leaps and bounds above almost everybody else in the lightweight division.
Man. And because a lot of people don't know about that. So it's good. It's nice to talk about it because nobody really knows it. That was like a world title fight. That was a goal that you give, you only got so much fight in you, right? And then you understand why people walk away and they're not stick around, but you only got so much. And I gave a good goal there, wanting to be number one, bringing the best guy from Japan. Everybody's at the top. All of us lightweight fighters always looked up to those Shuto guys, right?
Yeah.
All of them were good. So remember the days though, those guys were tough.
Ramiro Sato, Mock Sakurai, they were some tough dudes.
Yep.
There was some tough guys.
Yeah, you got to remember those guys were doing it before we were really kind of even getting into the sport. I mean, I remember Rumina Sato hit Charles Taylor with that flying armbar, and it basically we were getting videos of it through our flip phones. And everyone's like, oh shit, did you see that? His arm was straight. He's tapping before the arm even went straight because it was something that no one had ever seen before, and you hear about all the Japanese fighters who were just killing everybody at the time with their jiu-jitsu and their wrestling and just smashing guys. And so, but look, I wanted to
fight in the UFC, because I would think they would have had more success.
Yeah, I think also too, just you have to remember when you're changing scenes, the cage from the ring to the cage, that's one. Two is the noise. Yeah. The crowd is not the same. Like the crowd in Japan is silent until action happens and they go back to being silent. Yeah. In the States, they're walking out. That's an automatic adrenaline dump, I think, for any Japanese fighter that comes out going, shit, what is all this noise? What's going on? They can hear the crowd stomping as they're getting ready to walk out or while they're warming up. It changes the dynamic of any fighter who's not prepared for something like that.
Right? In a different culture. You walk in your house, everybody's like, shh, quiet.
Yeah, right. Everyone's like, and they're exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, realistically, go ahead.
I got a question as far as, I always say that walkout, especially when you're the main event of a fight, it's like a drug that you can't get anywhere else. when you started your career by running down the ramp, right away, just running right in, ready to go. And then eventually they took away the ramp and you did those walks. What were those walks like, and what were you really thinking about at those times?
Jeez, if you're focused, you're not thinking of nothing else, right? But sometimes you go in there, you're unfocused, you hear somebody fucking yell at your ear, fuck you, GSP beat you.
What a bunch of assholes,
there's
man.
always those guys, man.
Bro, you know, like BJ always likes to say, bro, you know the rules, man. These guys, they're jerks, man. They're jerks. You just gotta just know what the rules are. The rules are just don't let them get to you.
That's it. There's the 99.9% of the place love you. Don't worry about the guy.
Yeah. Okay, so like back on the comparison with you and Khabib, I just want to know, like, what do you think? How do you think he would have fared against somebody with and it's no disrespect at all. I just want to, how would you think he would fare in having to compete against guys at a higher weight class? You know, a Usman, a Colby Covington, guys that had good wrestling, possibly even going up to 185. You know, like, you know, you fought guys in the 185-pound division, having to fight guys like an Izzy, you know, or Derek Brunson, those type of guys with that type of wrestling.
Man, I honestly don't think he would have a chance. I'm all respect in the world, and he was the most dominant. He's never lost at lightweight, but I don't think he'd be, because Usman just knocked out Masvidal. Masvidal's never been knocked out before. You know what I mean? But I guess those guys were that for back then. Usman, you know, Usman is hungry right now, and he's huge, right? And huge. You know, I mean, it's going to be tough to get him on his back, and you start getting tired, and he's going, and he's got good cardio, and he's going on you, and he starts gaining confidence. Once the other guy gains confidence, the fight's good. It's tough already, right? Once that guy starts thinking, I got this guy, I got him, and it would just be, I think it would be tough. No disrespect to Khabib, but I don't think he could beat Usman.
Yeah.
I don't think he beat him. I don't think he beat Adesanya.
How much do you think that has to do with the generational gap? Because like realistically, like look, when you were making that run, and we're gonna talk about this, because when you made that run, guys like Matt Hughes didn't have jiu-jitsu really. I mean, you know, like you could say his armbar on GSP was GSP was tapping before the armbar was fully straight. You know, like sure, he made a great transition, but he wasn't known for his jiu-jitsu, and he was up until Matt retired, he wasn't known for his striking either. You know, so how much of that is a generational gap? Because guys like Usman, he's got, obviously just proved he's got good striking, he's got good wrestling. You know, he's increased his conditioning is on point.
He's like, he looks like just like a younger, hungrier, bigger GSP, I guess. You know, the boxing, but I guess his boxing's coming sharper, even his right hand, right?
Yeah.
You know, Masvidal's never been knocked out before, right?
Dude, he blasted him.
Isn't that crazy?
There was I don't care who you were. Nobody was standing up to the shot that he took.
Yeah, no knock on Masvidal. He's an animal. Yeah, he's an animal. No knock on none of them. No knock on Khabib. I mean, you can't. I'm just saying I would have tried, and I think he could get that fight.
Yeah.
I think he could get that fight, and I would have got that fight.
Yeah, see, I would say something like with the Khabib situation, Usman, because I think the tall, long, and lanky guys, and I'm gonna keep saying that, is guys like Usman with his reach, his jab, it would have been a really hard fight for Khabib to get in. And then even if he did get in the wrestling category, I would put maybe Khabib as being a better wrestler if they were just straight up wrestling, in terms of like the striking wasn't as much of a factor. But you put Khabib, because he's not tall, he's not long, but his tenacity comes forward. You know, he throws big shots to get himself in on the body locks and on the double legs. But can he get in enough on guys like Usman to get the takedown? Can he get in enough on guys like Usman to, you know, to grind him out on the wrestling? But having to deal with that size as well becomes a big factor.
And then what if you get put on your back? That's what I always think. What if Usman just on his back?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. But I've trained with him a lot. He's not bad. He's not bad off of his back. But having to deal with a guy who's bigger, like I'm saying, he's not bad off of his back with guys like myself. You know, I was never a big lightweight, but he's not bad off of his back though either with guys like Ed Ruth and guys like John Fitch. those type of guys. But when John was training with him, John was also kind of, getting a little bit older as well. So it's hard to compare. I think Usman right now is at the top of his game. Khabib is at the top of his game.
100%. 100%.
But if you're going to talk about a guy that was known as a grinder and great on the top position, John Fitch would be one of them.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I don't care what age he was.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. We saw that with Roy McDonald. We saw that with other guys too after that. But Usman, I feel like Usman, with the athleticism that he has, the power that he possesses in his punching, causes more of a threat for Khabib. Now, I'm not saying that Khabib couldn't beat him. I actually would lean more towards Khabib just because I think Khabib would wrestle him in different ways that we've seen. It wouldn't just be the straight double leg. He would make more transitions for foot sweeps, things that would take away Usman's athleticism, trying to press him to the fence. But it'd be harder for a smaller guy like that to press guys to the fence. Be like BJ had, even though he wasn't a big guy, he was very strong in different areas, but his flexibility, his dexterity, like if guys try to pick your single leg, you had great balance. You could shift their head from side to side. And if you did hit your back, you were good at hitting your omoplata to get back to your feet. You're good at hitting triangles to try and sweep them and get to the top position. Your style of sweeps were different. John was talking about the one just the other day about the pass that you got on, who was it?
Enzo Gracie. I will never forget the pass that you moved to mount. The way you moved your leg. First off, it's not human-like. I'm just saying it right there. Okay. It is no one else that I know could do what you did with your leg. Cause it's not like I would have to grab my leg and almost dislocate my hip to try to get it into that position. And you just did it without even touching it. It's like, oh, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was looking at that the other day, but I was thinking I should have put it up, but I don't want Master to kick my ass now.
Oh shit!
Right now, I'm coming down there.
He would too, man. That is the way he is.
Okay, so now we brought up the Renzo situation, with Rodrigo and with Renzo and those guys. Tell me, because I know there's a story. Remember, you'd already beat Rodrigo Gracie, right? And then you were fighting Renzo. Tell me about the family on the side and what they were yelling to Renzo when you were able to pass guard or you were on the top position. Because there's a lot of stories going around that the family was yelling, "Do it for the family, get him, do it for the family," and it became this thing. Like, man, the energy in the Gracie family to make sure that they that Gracie name lived on. It was electric in the crowd that night.
It is. No, it's true. That they're the ones. That martial art is just amazing, right? That martial art is just they were there. Yep. Half was there. Hey, but you know what? You know what's cool now is that Half's daughter lives over here. Her husband Kim is the jiu-jitsu teacher at my gym, so I talk to Half once in a while and stuff, and that's cool stuff. Just how life turns around, goes around in circles, and right.
That's crazy.
Right?
Maybe not. I don't know if a lot of people know, but you trained with Half in the beginning part of your career. I think you were with a blue belt with him, right?
Yes.
And that was when you were training with Dave Camarillo and Dan Camarillo and those guys. I think was Gumby there at the time also?
Yep.
So Gumby was there.
That's why it was the whole thing, because Half was there, and Half wasn't very happy that he started me off with training, and then I was there fighting Renzo, so yeah. I'm glad we can put all that stuff behind us and then move on to the next, and I do. As I get older, I start forgiving people now here and there. Not to forgive Half, I just talking about just life. But I remember the other day I seen this guy and he made all this trouble, and I was like, "Oh, there he is." And I was like, "I'm gonna go forgive him." Actually, I remember right when because he knew I should do something. You know what I mean? Yeah. But right when I said, "Hey man, life is short," that's the easiest way to think about it. Hey man, life is short. Oh man, his smile. I think God was there. His smile was so big because he knew he should have been head or gut.
Head or gut.
But the truth is, life is short. Just think about
Man.
Everything. And, I go back all the way with, before there was the UFC and with the Gracie family and stuff. And it's like, when I get together with Hoist, and Josh is there a lot of the time since Hoist is an ambassador with Bellator. It's amazing. It is amazing. Cause I go with the fashion, Josh was talking about, you guys, and he considers you, one of the old guys. Hoist was the 1.0 version. When I look at it like computers, and he was the 1.0. And then I kind of put Randy Couture and kind of Chuck Liddell in the 2.0. And BJ, you and Josh both, you were the 3.0s because you had more things to bring to the game than, Hoist. Hoist had jiu-jitsu. He didn't have any stand-up. He had zero stand-up, and then Randy had wrestling, and he at least could use his stand-up to get into the wrestling, and Chuck would use his wrestling to keep it in the stand-up, and then you guys brought in just more, and that's just how everything has happened with MMA. It's kind of like computers. It just keeps on getting more and more.
And what was it like when Matt fought Hoist? Were you reffing?
Yeah, I was.
What
Broke
was
my heart.
The whole night like?
It was one of those, I'll be honest, at the time, I looked and I said, just knowing Matt and knowing what Matt was capable of at the time and knowing Hoist, I just looked and I said, I just don't see a possibility for Hoist to win this fight. And
right.
that kind of brought, and, his family was there. I knew his kids. I knew his wife for, since they were dating and stuff. And it was like, when he was down and he was getting punished, and I'm telling him, hey, you got to move. And it was breaking my heart not to stop it earlier because I don't want to see him get hurt.
Right.
But I knew I couldn't do that, and I had to let him go. But it was, it was sad for me. It broke my heart because, when I got Matt off of him, and I looked at him and I said, hey, brother, it's okay. And he goes, it's just a fight, so I lost. It's okay. Right. And I go, you're right. Yeah. It's just a fight. And he had the right mentality about even at that time. It's just a fight. It's no big deal.
We got to remember that sometimes, Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like John said this a bunch of times to me, and not just me, but I mean, we've talked to other fighters about it that have lost. And it's like, look, if the worst thing that happened to you in your life is you lost a fight, you're living a pretty good life. And that's what people need to remember, man. Like, if the worst thing in your life is that you lost a fight, there's nothing to be worried about, man. You lived a great life. And so all those things considered, I think about all these things that we've been through, like, BJ and I, like, we've been through a lot. We train with a lot of guys, I remember the Rich Crunkleton. Remember, he tried to go hard with you one time, and BJ had him on BJ took him down and was just smashing him. And Hobbs was yelling to him, hey, BJ, go lighter. He's like, no, Hob. Rich likes to go hard. See, he likes it when I go hard on him. He likes to go hard. He likes it. And he's just looking at Hob and he's like, no, he likes it hard, Hob. Trust me, he likes it. Like, he likes it this hard. Because Rich was always trying to take BJ's head off. Those are the...
Okay, let's be honest. Rich was not known as the brightest individual in the room. All right.
But Rich was a cool guy, man. He was a cool guy. He just only knew one pace when it came to fighting, and BJ was, right at the time exactly. He did the funkiest stuff, man. He would throw spinning back elbows. He would try and do front cartwheel flips at your head. Just weird stuff. But he was a cool guy. He was great to be around. Tough as hell.
Yeah. He was doing all that before people did it, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't as effective as the people that are doing it now, but he still did it, but great guy, man. Fun guy. I mean, there's just been so many stories, and I tell the story, BJ. I mean, maybe you have a different side of it, but about the first time you and I grappled, and it was like, I trained in the night because I had a day job. BJ was training during the day. And they would come and tell me at night. Bob would tell me, and Hav would tell me, Frank Shamrock would tell me how great he was, how good he was in jiu-jitsu, and how he would just smash, he'd smash Frank, smash Bob, all these guys, in jiu-jitsu. And I was like, he's not that good. Whatever. Yeah, he only trains in the afternoon. He's never going to come train. And then they brought him one night. He came. And so they just basically waited for the class to be over. And they're like, BJ, go train. I think BJ tapped me 4 or 5 times in about 6-7 minutes, maybe even more than that in less time, or maybe, same amount, but in the less time, who knows? But I go back and I was like, man, it was just one of those eye-opening experiences. Like, okay, I need to quit my day job and start training jiu-jitsu more.
Hold it. The last time you told that story, it was you that tapped
Nah.
BJ 5 or 6 times.
Shit. Get the fuck out of here. Shit. B knows I wouldn't do him dirty like that.
I'm gonna give you one on BJ when he came to do that seminar. I had a guy who was one of my instructors who was outstanding grappler, really good, was on the world team when they were doing the whole they would send the whole team over, for grappling. It was USA Wrestling was kind of doing a whole thing.
Yeah.
And BJ is grappling with him, and BJ ended up trying to tap him by smother. He kept smothering his mouth and nose, and he's pulling him down. And I go, BJ, you got to stop that. He goes, no, this is good. Watch, it's going to work. And it did in the end. He that's what I go, that is just so fucking wrong.
Yeah. Oh, man. So, like, what about, is there any stories that you remember in terms of, the AKA time frame and, and in your time, like, because you went from, winning worlds. You were the first American to ever win worlds in jiu-jitsu, and you did it in Brazil, and no one had ever thought that was ever going to happen because, everyone at the time, Brazilian jiu-jitsu was very corrupt in terms of allowing people to win that weren't Brazilian. And so you went over there and dominated the positions and dominated your matches, and came out on top. That's kind of what got you into the UFC, right? Because you were the only American to ever win a jiu-jitsu tournament or the world jiu-jitsu.
That is what got me in, actually. And then Dana said, because I was with John Lewis. John Lewis took me to. He's like, yeah, I give these private lessons to these rich guys, but don't go too hard with me over there. But you can grapple with them, right? John was like, don't try to fucking go all out, motherfucker. He's gonna go play around with these guys. There was Lorenzo and Dana, and then we went in, and then they must have just started. I don't even think they were blue belts. And then we were all wrestling around and rolling around and stuff. And I remember so Dana knew me from that. And then Dana.
Why did you not choke him out harder? Why? What is wrong with you? No.
Rich guys, money.
I will let go of this choke if you pay me $1 million.
Oh man. Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then so from that, Dana says, oh yeah, hey, he's the jiu-jitsu world champion. So he liked jiu-jitsu already. He knew John. He says, hey, he's the jiu-jitsu world champion. Let's get him in here. And Joe Silva said, no, don't get him in there. No. Joe Silva was against it. He goes, he has that one fight because I did that one fight in Stockton.
Yeah.
I showed him the fight, and then Joe didn't want to do it. Dana was like, just put him in. And then we went in, and I remember they had 30 seconds. The first clip, it was like me and Tony D'Souza fought. So they had like our 2 clips. And then I remember just thinking, that's it. I made it. I'm the most famous guy in the world. The 30 like I bring people over and show them, look at that. Me on TV right there.
Yeah. Yeah, because there was you fought Joey Gilbert, I think the first fight
Gilbert
in the UFC. Yeah. And then after Joey Gilbert was Dean Thomas, correct? And then it was Carl Uno, and then you fought Jens Pulver for the title. You know, and and then from then, and then then you went right after that.
Yeah, I got a good question, guys. Just thinking of it. You sometimes you think, oh, well, maybe Dana has to act certain ways that he does. He's gone pretty far on each of us, I'm sure, over the years in our own ways that we've had disagreements with. We've all here had disagreements with him over the years. If you owned a big company like that, how would you keep all these fighters under control with each guy going to be popping up from this side and that side and this side, right? Coming after that is a big. What do you guys think about all that stuff?
Go ahead, John.
Go ahead, John. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Step right into it, John. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look at it this way. It doesn't matter what you do. There's always going to be people that like you and dislike you. That's just part of humanity, and that's the way it is. I always look and say, there's the one thing that I've always thought of in MMA is guys, for all of a sudden they become part of MMA, and all of a sudden they're tough guys. And it's like, you're not tough. You know, just because you're part of the sport, just because you have a position, be it, you know, you're, you know, someone running a company, or you're someone that's in an athletic commission spot or something like that, that doesn't mean that you're a tough guy. So stop acting like a tough guy. Okay.
Right.
Because in reality, you're going off with the fact that you either have power over that fighter, or you have a position, you know, with the government that's going to control the fighter to a point where they're not going to react the way they should in knocking the shit out of you,
Right.
based upon what you're saying to them. But, you know, you're going to get those ones where you just don't agree with, you know, personality wise, you don't agree and stuff. And that's going to happen. But I've always like to say, hey, treat people the way you want to be treated.
Right.
You know, treat everybody with respect. You know, if they don't return the respect, then fine, we'll deal with you that way. Sometimes, and Dana is a guy that, look, there's guys that love him and there's guys that hate him. You know, I don't hate Dana. I don't. But I do know that sometimes he needs to understand the power of his words, because he understands it. And sometimes he doesn't understand how much he's hurting somebody with what he's saying, because he's trying to be honest in his opinion, but it's just his opinion, but it carries a lot of weight, and he's got to be careful with it.
Because
I mean,
it can be treated as the truth in the media.
Yep. Even if it's not.
Like, I mean, somebody could give me a big boxing fight and he could just say, well, fucking BJ, he could say, well, that was the greatest fucking fighter when he was fucking, you know, or he could fucking say something bad and try to fuck you up, right?
Yeah. You know?
yeah, I did an interview.
What he says hurts. You know,
Right.
if Dana went and said, you know, if you got a big boxing match coming up, and Dana goes and says, oh, let's be honest, you know, BJ, you know, he hasn't won a fight in this, and he's old and he's slow. It hurts.
Yeah.
You know, because it's someone that you know. It's not like it's somebody that is, you know, just out there, you know, on the internet. This is somebody you know and you've dealt with and you've had a relationship with. And when they're saying it, it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is what, look, along the way though, B, you had a lot to do with this, and people, and you need to be reminded of this, I think, as well.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot to do with this. Yeah, everything to do with this.
You had almost everything to do with this. He's the way he is though, because you bounced and took the title with you when you fought Matt Hughes, and that bothered him because he didn't have a clause in his contract that said you can't leave if you're the champion. They changed the contracts because of the things that you did throughout your career. There's a lot of things that you did that changed the way, because you had them by the short and curlies. And if you guys don't know what short and curlies are, you guys got to look it up. He had them by the balls because BJ was the man at the time, after beating somebody who was, I think Matt Hughes is an 8 or a 9-time world champion who people thought was unbeatable at the time. You beat him and bounced and went off and started your own promotion. You made tons more money than you were making in the UFC, fighting in K1, fighting guys like Dwayne Ludwig. You set the rules basically. And when you came back, that made Dana hard in terms of it pissed him off, but it also made him a lot more wise on how they handled fighters' contracts. So a lot of what they do now is based around the stuff that you laid the groundwork for. So I want to thank you and also say I hate you at the same time. But in reality, it's true. You changed the game.
Yeah, they got ready from that, you know. Well, you know what? I think it's been a while now, but yeah, it was because it was like 25 and 25 for like a bunch of fights in a row, and won Matt Hughes, and then I'm thinking, wow, this is the greatest thing ever, you know. You wow, the champion now, and then I said, okay, well, let's do something, and then we kept trying to put something together, and then they said, okay, 30 and 30. And I was just, we just did all those time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
On the phone trying to put it together in my head, you know. So that's just kind of how things started in back then. But yeah.
And then you what? Then you went over to K1. Then you went to Rumble. You did your own Rumble in the Rock thing, and you made more money. I mean, how much money did you make fighting Dwayne Ludwig? Exactly.
Don't ask him how much money he
but
made.
No, but that's the thing is I already know what he made. So that's the thing. The reason why I'm saying that is because I already know what he made. But the bottom line is it was a lot more than what they were offering you to fight somebody who wasn't Matt Hughes, level. You know what I mean? And
And Dwayne Ludwig kind of fighting him was kind of like a lineal championship in a way, because he knocked out Pulver. He never lost it. He knocked out Pulver, then I fought him in K1, and then I just fought Gomi. So I just fought Gomi. He knocked out Pulver. Was kind of a lineal championship, you know. Yeah. But it was weird when K1 said, "Hey, we want you to come fight over here," and then they say, "Okay." I said, "Okay, who am I going to fight?" And they said, "That other guy from America." I think
that other guy.
Oh shit, that's true though. That's true. All right, man. Well, hey, we're gonna wrap this up, and just want to say thanks for coming on. Is there anything you want to say? I know bjpenn.com. You guys check out the news source, and what else?
Please, bjpenn.com. And yeah, I just want to thank you guys. I've known you guys both for a long time. Thank you. That's why I jumped on right away. So thank you guys.
BJ, we want to thank you for being on, and just let you know, man, you are still one of the icons of the sport. You will always be, and God bless you for everything you did and everything you're doing. I hope you're doing well, brother.
Thank you.
All right, man. Give the girls my love, man. Good luck with the fams, and give your pops my blessings as well. Hope he's doing well.
Love you guys.
Take it easy, brother. Talk soon.
Later, baby. Now we want to talk about one of our sponsors that we love the product. It is Fume. It is the best way for anyone out there that is a smoker to quit smoking and vaping naturally. What they have are these essential oil cores. It replaces the hand-to-mouth habit that you'll get from smoking or vaping. There's flavorful blends from plants. You curb the nicotine cravings with the black pepper. They've got menthol sensation, which I love, with the peppermint and eucalyptus. The stress relief is lavender and cinnamon. No smoking, no vaping, no nicotine, no harmful chemicals to anybody that is using it or anybody that's around you while you use it. It's a fantastic product. I love the stuff. No chemicals, just plants. That's what makes it, and that's what makes it safe. You need to head to www.breathefume, and Fume is FUM.com/weighing in, and use the promo code weighing in to get your 10% off of your order. When you use that weighing in, you can get all of the essential oil cores. You can get the actual breathing apparatus that is part of the Fume. It comes from Canada. It's a wood. It's beautifully done. Everything about Fume has been beneficial to me. I believe it's been beneficial to Josh. And Josh, you know that you have people, even with COVID, that Fume has actually made a difference in them recovering.
Yeah, a lot of people that I know, friends and family, that have lost their sense of smell and taste from COVID have used this and have tried it and said that it has helped bring back their smell and their taste. So that's one benefit of it. This was something we weren't aware of when we had actually signed to work with Fume. And this was one of the things that helped us worry that we are in get us to sign with Fume. We love the fact that this also helps with the COVID situation. For me, it helps with my nasal issues because I have nasal issues when I sleep. Helps clear my nasal cavity before I go to bed. So I use this a little bit. And like you said, the number one thing is the no smoke. It's harmless to have around kids, which is perfect. Yep. So I can use this in the car. Don't have to worry about smoke being in the car if you have kids or family or anyone that you care about in the car. So this is perfect. Make sure you guys use that promo code weighing in when you guys use it for that additional 10% off. And you guys enjoy.
Yeah, there is the Quit Naturally pack that they have. You get one of the Fume Prominence. That's the actual device you're going to use to breathe in the essential oils with those cores. You'll get one pack of Conquer, one pack of peppermint, black pepper, and there's a white cranberry that is brand new. It is outstanding. I hope you try it. I hope you like it. It's awesome to us. Can't say anything more about it. It's great. All right, we are lucky enough to have a guy that has been part of the MMA game on the inside for so many years. It doesn't mean he's that old because he started off when he was young. But Rich Chou has been there for Rumble on the Rock. He was one of the guys that managed BJ Penn, a guy that has been there throughout with Elite XC, been the Bellator matchmaker, and is now one of the head guys with the Wimp to Warrior program. What is happening, Mr. Rich Chou?
What's up, fellas? John, thank you. That's a hell of an intro. I might need you to introduce me at every function from now on, man. That was awesome. You just made my day, buddy. Thank you.
Right on, baby. Well, that's some nice shorts you got up there over your shoulder there. I kind of recognize those from some guy. I don't know who he is, but I do remember somebody.
Yeah, you know what? I'm in my son's room, which is actually the coolest room in the house, so it worked out. My office in the living room was taken over. It's power hour over here. You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
fellas. The kids are running around. We've got the in-laws over. So I've been pushed into my son's room, Ollie's room, but like I said, it happens to be the coolest room in the house anyway, so it all
Yeah.
worked out.
So I guess let's just jump right into it, man. There's a lot of stuff that we want to talk to you about, but the very first thing I want to talk to you about, you and I were rapping in the car earlier, and you're like, you kept telling me, let's just save it for the show. And then we carried on for another 5 minutes. Okay, let's save it for the show, another 5 minutes. And we just kept mumbling on. I was like, oh shit. 20 minutes later, we're like, okay, let's save the rest for the show. The comparisons right now with BJ Penn, you got his shorts there behind you. You know, he was famous for creating, like having those shorts brought out with the black belt, you know, around him. That's really what he made iconic, was the white shorts with the black belt. You see guys like Benson Henderson using them. You see other fighters use them before also. But when the comparison comes to guys like Khabib versus BJ, I think stylistically, when you put the two of those guys in the era, in each other's era, in terms of being in their prime, they match up very well. And I think a lot of people right now are saying, because it's current, Khabib is obviously the more dominant fighter, or the guy that would have smashed BJ. But what those people are looking at is the fights that BJ ended his career on, and not the fights and the stuff that he did during the prime of his career.
Yeah, you know, I think it's a you know, the best thing we saw was the last thing we saw, right? I think that's very common these days, and people forget about the past, and especially in our sport where there's so many new fans. You know, they don't remember those moments that you're referring to, that we were all amazed by. People don't you know, modern fans don't realize that. They just kind of saw the last several years, which, you know, certainly weren't his best. And when you look at him on paper today, you know, he's a journeyman, right? You really have to talk to the right people. And, you know, hopefully this will be a nice history lesson for a new fan who might not truly know BJ's greatness and how he changed the game and what he brought to the table. But, you know, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that, you know, for all you new fans out there who may not know who BJ Penn is or what his career was really about, he's probably your favorite fighter. He's your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, just people love him in the community. But I get, when you're a journalist, you know, media members, you're writing about legacy, you're writing about all these other things, and it's kind of difficult to capture that when you look at how things ended up. So I certainly understand that part of it. But I'm glad you guys are bringing it up, and because I think BJ deserves to have the recognition. People need to be reminded, but not just him, but several other legends that I'm sure we could talk about in the future that people have forgotten. And it's like, hey, hold on, guys. You know, let's not rewrite history or forget history or kind of cherry pick. You know, certain greats like BJ from the past really need to be recognized.
This is one of the things that when I talk to you, I love about you, Rich, is you're so educated and so knowledgeable about the sport. Sometimes it pisses me off because you're so rational about it. Drives me crazy. It's like, don't be that logical. I want you to be nuts like me.
It's so true.
It's when we talk about the guys from the past and we talk about BJ and what BJ could do, because I always said that at a certain point, you know, in his career, or, you know, just a point in time in the sport, BJ Penn had the skill set. If you were going to say, I could take one skill set from just one fighter and use just what they possess, I always said it was BJ Penn would be the guy I would pick, because he possessed an incredible stand-up game, because he had power in his hands. He had a great chin. He had a, you know, super heavy, you know, jab, and right hand was strong. Never had the greatest kicks, but his wrestling was fantastic, even though he wasn't a wrestler, and his jiu-jitsu was remarkable. At a certain point, there was nobody that could touch him. He had everything.
Yeah, in his prime, he was the best fighter in the world, and that prime BJ is still one of the all-time greats, and certainly worthy of the Khabib conversation. Definitely. that moment, yeah, it's a real conversation for those that dismiss it. Maybe we gotta again give him a history lesson. And again, this isn't taking anything away from Khabib. He's one of my favorite fighters. He's an awesome person. This is more about BJ than it is about Khabib, in my opinion.
Yeah, because the conversation, and I'm agreeing with you right there, is that a lot of people need to understand that we're not taking anything away from what Khabib did. There's nothing to be taken away. John and I have said this several times, and you and I actually talked about it earlier today with you, is he has been the most dominant fighter at 155 that has ever existed. He basically hadn't lost a round, I think up until the Conor fight, and people could say that he really just took that round off because he tried to smash Conor's head in the end of the second round, and he tried to get him out of there and just took the third round off. He's been the most dominant fighter, but that what BJ was doing, BJ was not trying to be the most dominant fighter. He was trying to be the best fighter worldwide in terms of it didn't matter what weight class it was. And that era of fighting, and because I was part of that era, is that we didn't do it because we wanted just to be the best. We did it because we loved it. Like if we weren't fighting honestly in the gym, we weren't fighting in the cage, who's to say? We were sometimes fighting out at the clubs. Sometimes we were out in the street. Sometimes, and you saw that.
First off, not sometimes, Josh. Let's be honest.
Quite a bit. Yeah, it was quite a bit.
I know. Buddy. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think his fighting spirit isn't talked about enough. It's underappreciated. And you're right. Back then, a lot of guys didn't talk about legacy. You just fought. You fought and took on the biggest challenge. And I think the reason why he has the diehard fans that he does are the guys that remember that. He's fought at 145 all the way to heavyweight. Yeah. It's insane. There are very few guys that have done that. And he always wanted the biggest, baddest guy. I was, lucky enough to be involved in some of these conversations. And in the moment, I'm just like, holy shit, what
is wrong with you?
Yes. Like, hey, everyone says Georges St-Pierre, he's the biggest, baddest guy on the planet. I want him. Like, we don't see that enough, again, the business has evolved and it's changed quite a bit. And I understand why there's so much, things are held up, and he was just a guy that he just wanted to fight. And it's big business now though. So again, no knock on, the guys these days that are hesitant to take certain fights, or, hey, one could argue that from a business standpoint, all those moves may not have been the right ones, but when you talk about his fighting spirit, it's second to none. It's truly remarkable when you really look at just how fearless he was. And I think that's something that is not talked about enough, because you do look at the record. I get it. Media members need to write about the all-time greats and consistency and legacy, and he may not exactly fit into that narrative, but I guess that's what this conversation's about, and hopefully we can shed some light on that.
The number one thing, not the number one thing, but one of the things I'd like to shed light on is that he helped structure how these UFC contracts are written now, because he had beat Matt Hughes and he had bounced out with the title and started his own promotion and just flew in top level talent and just basically created something with Rumble on the Rock that was later then sold, right, to Elite XC and purchased, by them for, we won't even talk about the amount of money, but then also then turned into something that was on Showtime. He created something with you guys, with you and with his brothers and, his family and stuff. They helped create that, not just the promotion, but they also helped structure how the UFC does business.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That was a big deal. For him to leave and go sign that deal with K1. And obviously the UFC wasn't happy about it. But it did launch Rumble on the Rock. Yeah, you're definitely right about that. So for me, it was a great opportunity at that time to be lucky enough to get a chance to not only get into the promotional side of things with his family, with JD really leading the charge there, his older brother, but also to be a part of all these camps with BJ, where we were helping organize these things, structure them, bringing the guys in, sitting down, strategizing. That was a big, big part of why I'm here today. Those things I learned. I got a chance to really learn from and be around and help out the best fighter in the world at the time. And all the things I learned on the promotional side as well. It was just the foundation that I had. I'm so grateful for it. And I'm very lucky that I was able to be with those guys at the time and that it all played out the way it did, because I learned a hell of a lot of things that, for example, all those camps, you were there, Josh. That's how we met. I got a chance at a very early age to see what high level was. Like, it really helped create this bar for me. Like, he was always bringing in the best guys, right? The best coaches, the best training partners. And it was just amazing to be around, to occasionally be able to train with everyone. But just to be there was, and absorb all that information and knowledge was amazing for me. So,
because what you run into, right? Go ahead. Sorry, John.
No, I'm just saying, what did it do for you? Because you were part of bringing in some of the talent that was brought in to Rumble on the Rock and to get those fights, those matchups and everything that you guys had. What was it like to have to, in bringing in that talent, because you had the guy that everybody wanted to fight. You had the guy that was the guy. And what did that do in helping you learn about matchmaking and what it was like to get someone to fight another guy that was up in that upper level when you were doing it in Bellator?
Yeah, what's interesting is you approach it, in exactly that way, like from a matchmaking standpoint. You sit down, strategize, like, okay, who's the opponent? What's their style? Who are the other guys out there that have a similar style? And who are some other guys that could give us different looks, bring in, help us, maybe not, he might not be the perfect fit and have that exact same style, but, this person could bring in something that we could benefit and learn from and utilize. So yeah, the strategy at that level and analyzing and breaking down fighters, their skill sets, developing those relationships, it really allowed me to become a matchmaker at this level, to go from Rumble on the Rock to Elite XC to Strikeforce and to Bellator. If I didn't have that education, if I wasn't around those guys at that time, and have had that opportunity to learn everything, I don't think I would be here today. Like, it was invaluable, that experience. And we approached it in that manner, from, at least for me, from like a matchmaker standpoint of styles, hey, who can we bring in that can mimic him? But like, and who would I bring in that could beat you? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, approaching it that way, instead of just randomly saying, oh, that guy's cool, let's see if he'll come and train. So yes, it was very cerebral, and it was very strategic. As far as fight camps goes, obviously during the off time, when there wasn't a fight coming up, it was just bring in whoever's really cool and let's learn from them. Let's bring in who's the best coach right now, who's the best jiu-jitsu guy, who's the best wrestler. Let's track this dude down, see if he wants to come to Hawaii.
That was hard.
Not a hard sell.
That was a hard sell right there.
Oh, and let's learn from them. So what an opportunity, man. What an education that I got early on.
That's the one thing when you're talking about that. Some fighters at the level that which BJ was at that time, it doesn't matter. It could have been Matt Hughes. It could have been GSP. If their coaches or their management would have said, hey, let's bring in an Olympic caliber wrestler and have you train with this guy, they probably sometimes would say, yeah, that's a cool idea, until the Olympic caliber wrestler got there and started taking them down and destroying them and dominating them, be like, yeah, I don't want this anymore. They would start arguing over like, no, I don't want a Canelo to come in and box my ears off. Like, that was the difference between what BJ, for me, from what I saw, is that it didn't matter who. He always wanted the best guys. And when I went out there a couple of times, like guys that I had never even heard of, and I realized how damn good they were, the Mendez brothers, they're out there training with BJ. I was like, these guys, I never even heard of them yet, but they were fucking so good. Gi or no gi, it didn't matter. Like, no gi, they were just, I felt like, I felt at the time when I was out there, when they were there, I was like, man, I had just beat Nate, and I was kind of in that position of like, or right before I had fought Nate, I was like I felt like I was on my way up. I was right there doing well. These guys made me feel like on the ground, like I didn't know shit, and BJ always had, like you said, the best guys out there. And didn't matter if he thought if you were better than him, or if it was, he didn't care. He wanted you there because he wanted to absorb knowledge. That's something that's hard to find in top level guys.
Yeah, absolutely. The guy was a sponge. He really, truly did love and appreciate the game. I don't think that's talked about as well, with him. It was, I mean, that camp that you're referencing, I want to say it was the Rory McDonald camp. Who else was out there? For example, Tyron Woodley, Pat Healy, Ben Askren.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple guys. So forgive me if you were there and I'm leaving you out. But my point is just a bunch of badasses, man. Just elite level guys and obviously really good people. And it was just like that consistently for a decade plus, man.
Yeah.
Guys just coming in. He'd call, hey, so-and-so's coming tomorrow. I just got off the phone with them. You kidding me?
Yeah.
It's awesome. Because I think what was cool was people recognized his high skill level, his appreciation for technique and whatnot. So they wanted to go hang out in Hawaii, of course, but also learn from him. So it was always this really fun exchange of technique and knowledge. And then sometimes guys would just randomly show up.
Yeah.
So it was always it was a very memorable time for me. I feel like these days you just don't see that much. Teams are so structured. Yes, guys do cross train, but for the most part, guys just kind of, that's not as encouraged anymore, right? It's kind of discouraged. You don't really see that as much.
Yeah. The one stat that you gave me today is something that I didn't even consider and think of was he had just beaten somebody and then he went up and fought and beat that person as well at a different weight class. So let's put this in perspective. Like you go ahead and put it in perspective on what you were talking about today.
Yeah. Obviously we were all there and we all remember the fights, but what I forgot about was the timeline. So I saw this on Twitter a few weeks ago, and I forget who mentioned it, but I believe BJ beats Gomi, who at the time he beats him in Rumble on the Rock, and it was dominant. Remember how much hype there was leading up to that
Choked
fight?
him unconscious.
And before, and he just pumped him. He was a bloody mess until he finally put him out of his misery. And at that time, Gomi was really regarded as the top lightweight in the world. And a very one-sided fight that BJ dominated. And shortly after, he goes from fighting the top lightweight in the world and beating him in Hawaii to then fighting Matt Hughes and beating Matt Hughes for the UFC title. Here, I actually pulled it up. Let's look at the dates.
That was UFC 46, wasn't it?
Yeah. So October 10th, 2003, he beats Gomi. And then January 31st, 2004, he beats Matt Hughes.
So not even 6 months.
No. And I would challenge you to find a more impressive back-to-back, fight schedule and wins. It's tough.
Well, no, let's talk about this though. Look, we've seen fighters go from 145 to 155 and not have success. Guys like Max, who walk around big, and to get there and then not have success at 155. And nothing against, I'm not trying to dig at Max at all. This is all due respect. But it's anytime you have a fighter go from, especially during that time when you're going against someone like a Matt Hughes, who's known for being strong, physically strong, and a great wrestler, for you to go from 155 to go to 170, which is a 15-pound jump, not even a 10-pound jump. That's remarkable within a 6-month period. And then not only that, but then win the title.
Yeah. Let's put it in a modern perspective here. It's Patricio Pitbull beating Michael Chandler, or, having a dominant title defense. And then in 3 months, moving up to fight Amosov now, that's just not going to happen. And on the flip side, it's Oliveira beating Poirier and then going up, to fight Usman. That's not happening in 3 months. That's just, good night, guys. That's great. I mean, that's just not happening. So it's, that's something, that's an interesting stat. Again, thanks for bringing it up, Josh. I can't take credit for it, but man, it really caught my eye and put things more in perspective, right? Like that's just not, most guys are not doing that. If anybody today.
Well, they're shying away from that type of challenge because they, like you said, a lot of fighters now are talking about, media right now is talking about legacy. during that time, there was no talk about legacy. It was about, hey, this guy says he's the best guy. Well, no, F you. I'm going to show you I'm the better guy. And I don't care what weight class I have to go to do it. BJ was that guy. And like I said, I'm not trying to take anything away from Khabib or anybody else. I think Khabib, like we've said, is the most dominant fighter at that weight class. It's sad that we didn't get to see him go. I think we would have been able to see him go maybe to a higher weight class if his father had lived on. If his dad had lived and he didn't make the promise to his mom and that whole scenario, I think it would be different. I think he would have continued to fight. Yeah, things happen. But to go based off of what we know, that's a huge stat, because we know in this day and age that fighter's not going to go from Oliveira's not going to fight Dustin Poirier and then 3 months later say I'm going to beat up Usman.
Yeah. It's
it's also the other part that you got to look at, and it's it's not only he's going to go and fight and win, he's going to finish, because he finished both of them with rear naked chokes, and he put Gomi out, he beat Gomi up, and when he took Matt Hughes' back in that, fight, Matt had no idea what BJ did to get to his back. I mean, it took his back, got the choke, and just dominated the guy that was unbeatable, because, you got to figure Matt Hughes had gone through guys like Max Sakurai. They brought in Sakurai one fight to try to beat, to see if he could beat Matt Hughes and stuff. Matt was incredible at that time.
Yeah, he was the most dominant welterweight in UFC history.
Yep.
He's one of the all-time at that time. He was the man, right? He was just smashing everybody. BJ was a huge dog in that one, and that was a hell of a run. Very impressive. And again, this isn't about. There are really amazing fighters today, man. The skill level is higher than it's ever been, right? Can we agree on that? Where MMA's at today. Crazy. The skill level is at an all-time high. This isn't about their greatness. This is about the underappreciated career of BJ in 2021. Where modern fans are dismissing that it's even a conversation.
Well,
right.
I was trying to put it in perspective, like if for other people that watch other sports as well, like say football. To say that Jim Brown would have been as successful now in this NFL that he was back then it would not be the same, and that's not fair to compare with BJ as well against Khabib, because it's a different style. Fighters are different. Jim Brown, like the guys now that are in the NFL, they're bigger, stronger, faster. Yeah. They would have caught him from behind. They wouldn't have been ran over as easy. I mean, the linebackers now, and then even the safeties, they're all walking around pretty decent sizes now, and they're all extremely fast. Offensive or defensive linemen now are extremely fast. They're all running 4.4s. I mean, that's insane to think, like the sports have come this far. So it's not a fair comparison when you're comparing him against Khabib. But the comparison that I'd like to make is just that he was somebody that did things. He marched to his own drum, kind of thing. Like he said. He left the UFC. They created a new contract. The way the fighters' contracts are written is because of a lot of the stuff that he did, and you can love him or hate him for that if you're a fighter, as we would like to say.
There's a lot of fighters that are not happy with BJ.
They're not happy with that situation, But, there's that. But then you also look at that he never shied away from it. And that's something that I think a lot of fighters in this day, I don't know if they can wrap their heads around. And you said it very, very very well said when you said he's probably the favorite fighter of your favorite fighter, because that's probably what they got addicted to watching, when they were watching the UFC back in the day. The way he walked, with the just scrap shirts on from the locker room, twitching his eye and touching his nose and this, like those are things that fighters remember about the legacy of certain fighters. And he just had that swagger about him, and just came in. He always wanted to fight the best guy, and his trash talk was some of the best, even though it just had that Hawaiian accent to it. One of the best was when he was doing, I think it was the 24/7 for one of the GSP fights. And he's telling the story about how he was laying in bed. Who was he talking to? What's GSP's coach's name? Faraz. He's like, yeah, I'm laying in bed and I'm just looking up at the side, up at the ceiling, and I'm thinking to myself, if I could just tell Faraz one thing, it would be go fuck yourself. And it was like a quick little one-liner that just got everybody up, and the crowd went crazy. People were talking about it. It was just one of those things, man. Like, he had a way about him, like, you know, and like Khabib does too, you know, bring your chicken, I smashed this chicken, your chicken boy, you're number one. Yeah, like
send
those
location.
kind.
I love that.
Send location. Number one, this guy, number one bullshit. Like, just, it's a different time. Exactly. Like, these are all things that when you think about legacy, I think about those type of things, you know, and I'm not trying to say that one is better than the other. I told BJ this when we had him on. I said, you guys are definitely 1 and 2. How you guys place yourself? Fuck, I don't care. I don't care if one says I'm better and the other one says this. You're splitting hairs at different times, different eras.
Yeah. Look, it's everyone's going to have their GOAT, and that's the beauty of it. And I think we just want to have an intellectual discussion about it, right? Let's have a real conversation about it. But yeah, if someone says Khabib's their GOAT, I mean, it's
no
hard
problem.
to argue with. Yeah, GSP, even John Jones. I know he's kind of fallen out of the conversation, lately, but hey, those are all amazing guys. It's a real conversation, but it's really, what's your style? Just there's so many things that factor into why is this guy your favorite guy, right? It's it's all good.
Let's talk about what you are doing now, because you are with a program, the Wimp to Warrior program. Tell us about what you have going on right now.
All right, guys, now we're going to talk about mybookie.ag. Use the promo code WayneIn, and they will give you an extra bonus if you guys scan this barcode here. This one right here, if you guys scan that one, they'll give you a little bit extra spending cash with that barcode there. So make sure you go to mybookie.ag, use the promo code WayneIn, and scan that barcode for an additional money on gambling. So if you guys want to go ahead and use that, get that little extra cash, but there's football coming up now that it has started. We've got basketball coming back around. There's fights almost every weekend. You can bet on Bellator next week. You can bet on the UFCs. You can bet on the PFLs. You can bet on every single event there is. I mean, shoot, even during the election time, they had different types of stuff to vote on for the election. So we've got plenty of stuff to vote on. Go to mybookie.ag. Use the promo code WayneIn for that additional cash, and use that barcode right there.
Wimp to Warrior, we are transforming lives through martial arts, through mixed martial arts, through training. We are bringing something that is sometimes very intimidating, which is training. I mean, we all know, right? We're all here today. We've all come this far because of our love and our passion for martial arts. And we all started off as practitioners, right? It's a powerful, amazing, transformative force that sometimes isn't the easiest to bring over to the everyday person. So what we do is we try to get the everyday person to train, try to break down some of these barriers that prevent them from training. And the way we do that is we partner with elite level academies all over the world. We help them market. We help them, promote the program, and we help drive people to these academies to take this program on. It's a 20-week program that ends with an amateur fight. Now, you don't have to fight, but I will tell you that most people that will definitely surprise you, you would never expect them to step in there. They are stepping in there. I'm talking about grandmothers.
Oh,
Shit you not, fellas. There are 2 grandmothers that have gone through the program so far. One is in Australia. One is in Kalispell, Montana. I was at her fight. I was at her finale for SBG Kalispell in May. This grandmother has 2 amateur fights. She has more of a technical understanding and more fight experience than most people in the fight business. And again, that's not, throwing anyone under the bus. It's just more about her, like she can break down a fight and technique better than most people that keep this industry going. I found that interesting. There was a 50-year-old man that fought that night. Like currently at one of John Kavanaugh's gyms, there's an amazing man who is an amputee. He's got a blade. He's training every day. He's showing up. He's figuring it out. He's learning. yeah, we are getting people that would normally never get on the mat and learn. Our goal, our mission is to get them on the mat, is to drive them to these amazing gyms, have these gyms get more business, more exposure, and giving these people an amazing experience. That's very, that could be potentially life-changing. So we're in the middle of all this, bringing people to these great gyms. And that's our core. That's our mission, to help grow MMA through this process.
A lot of what people don't understand is that you will never really know much about yourself until you've been into a fight. Now, whether it's just a wrestling match or jiu-jitsu match, but I've always felt that one-on-one competitive sports is one thing that you will learn the most about yourself internally. And I just did an interview this morning with Corey Anderson's wife, who's doing a small little podcast that she's just starting. And when I was talking to her, I said, look, in my first fight, I had bragged to everybody that I was going to beat this guy. I was going to knock him out with a head kick and this and that. And I was a wrestler with decent jiu-jitsu at the time. I'd only been training Muay Thai for like 6 months. Thought I was a Muay Thai guy all of a sudden, like Gerald Streetbent when I fought him.
I was going to say you're Gerald Streetbent.
And I thought, so I was like, yeah, I'm going to go out there. He won't be able to take me down. And I died. It was a 1 minute. It was a 10-minute round, but it was one round. And like with a minute left, they did the whole clack, clack, but it was a minute left, and I so I stood up and I let the guy up. I was ground and pounding him at the time. I basically stood up out of mount and just stood up and to show everyone that, my friends and everyone that I invited, that I was going to knock him out. And I threw the head kick and slipped. He got my back and he hit me, and I tripoded up and he slid off. And when he slid off, he caught me in a inverted triangle, and I tapped with less than a minute left. And it was eye-opening because what you're talking about, Rich, for me, it was the one-on-one. I was willing to give up the win of the fight, to showboat to people that I had invited to come there, to embarrass this one person. And what it did was it taught me a lot about myself, is that, hey, you couldn't have been more of a bigger piece of shit at that moment in your life. And so, honestly, that's kind of what humbled me along the way in trying to become a better fighter throughout that. I was like, look, I lost that fight. It took me almost a year. I paid $25 to fight too, and it's like, that was the thing. I went in thinking that I'm going to dominate this guy and this, that, but I learned a lot about myself as an individual, and it got me all the way up into the UFC. I mean, I basically hadn't lost a fight up until I got to the UFC, that was the first fight I lost. And I hadn't lost a fight since until I got to the UFC. It was one of those eye-opening experiences of when you just know that you learned a lot from yourself. And it was a one-on-one conversation I had to have with myself several times, that you're not a piece of shit. Don't do things like that to people, and you have the desire to go out there, but you can be beaten at any time, and anybody at any time can get you. It doesn't matter if you're winning for 9 minutes or 9.5 minutes. You've got to make sure that they're fully finished, and that you're not that person to try to embarrass people. Like, those things will backfire on you through karma, just through everything. And what you guys are doing, because a lot of top level gyms, City Kickboxing, right, in
New Zealand.
In New Zealand. I keep wanting to say Australia. In New Zealand, they're with you guys. They have a huge program there. You have SBG in Ireland, right? They have a huge program there. They're building with John Kavanagh, and there's a lot of other SBGs that are here in the States, like you said, in Montana, that are also doing this. You guys have grown quite a bit, and you guys are doing a great job.
Oh, thanks, Josh. Shout out to, since you mentioned them, Eugene Berriman, the guys at City Kickboxing. They've successfully sold out several programs and series to where they have a wait list. They throw amazing finales. They're really changing people's lives over there, while simultaneously coaching some of the best fighters in the world. It's truly amazing. John Kavanagh over in Ireland right now, across his 3 gyms, has about 150 people in the program currently.
Jeez.
Wow.
And yes, it's amazing. So we're having tremendous success internationally. It's my job to really help us grow here in North America. And as you mentioned, Josh, with that experience that humbled you, that gave you that moment to really sit down and put things in perspective, while a lot of our competitors are not trying to pursue a fight career, we all know the things that you learn on the mat and the things you learn in competition. Like you said, you'll be a different person after this program and after you fight, and those things can help you out in life. And I firmly believe that the world would be a better place if more people trained. And I really feel like we need it now more than ever. I mean, every time I hop on it's kind of sad what I see out there, man. It's sad. People do need more respect, humility.
Yeah.
More people need to train. That's the way I see it. So we need, and of course, the whole mental health aspect, right? I think we all know the true benefits of training aren't physical. You don't just get in shape, but I feel like it helps you mentally, spiritually. So, hey, it might sound a little corny or whatever, but I really do feel like if more people trained, I'm not saying you got to go out and be a pro fighter, but if more people trained and humbled themselves through this process, the world would be a better place.
If more people trained, the internet and social media would be completely different.
Yeah. Well, it's
Maybe
true,
you
John.
would be talking shit, you know.
Oh, exactly.
Pro fighters to people that are experts in their fields, like you'd be a little more humbled and grounded. It does provide for some pretty cool entertainment and funny moments from time to time. But overall, man, I got to hop off sometimes. I'm like, man, this is like, what is going on? Like, yeah, we need more humility, just patience, all the things that you learn on the mat, right?
Well, this is what it comes down to. This is that I'll give you guys an example from just my perspective. I'm sure some other fighters have had the same perspective. When I was younger, I walked around with a chip on my shoulder thinking I could fight. And then I went and lost to a guy who was 0-0, like I was 0-0 at the time. I lose to a guy who wasn't as good as me, but just beat me because I made a mental mistake and just was being an idiot. Then you go and you train more and you get better. But during that time, right, I'm still fighting in nightclubs. I'm still fighting on the street. I'm still doing dumb things. But as you got better and as you start winning more fights and as you get more skills, what happens is you find it less important to prove to others that you're a badass because you already know you are. So the more knowledge you absorb, the more you get better in terms of jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, wrestling, all of those things. Humbles you a lot more because you have a lot more respect for people that are good at jiu-jitsu, guys that are good at wrestling. And you know the level that you are just walking around amongst guys that really, and females also, that know exactly what the hell they're doing. You think Joe Blow at the bar has had 5 drinks is going to beat you up? That shit ain't happening. That was one of the biggest learning things that matured me as a person, and just made me realize that I don't need to be at the clubs fighting. I know how good I am. And so the more knowledge is power, saying it has a lot of truth to it.
Absolutely. Both of you guys have, Josh, you currently are in the gym business. John, I know you were as well. You've seen what it can do. It's amazing. And I'm sure some of the most fulfilling moments for you while you had a gym, some of the people you still stay in touch with today that you'll never forget, came through your gyms, transformed themselves, right? Became different, better people. And that's what we're in the business of. And for me, it's such an interesting contrast. I mean, I still consult and work with Scott and help him out with certain projects. So I'm still in the fight game at a certain level, but to transition from, working with you guys and trying to put on the best shows, put on the best fights, showcase elite level MMA, to now just trying to help the average person discover this amazing, powerful force and see how it can improve their lives. It's pretty cool. I really couldn't have asked for a better opportunity to transition to over at Wimp to Warrior.
I would really like to, and I will pay for it if I could get Podcast Dave into this program, just so I can watch him fight just one time. Everybody listening to this right now, you guys need to hit the comment section and say, "Look, Podcast Dave needs to do this."
Podcast Dave, Wimps to Warrior. Let's see it.
Guys, I'm glad that you mentioned that because, right now our schedule is a little light. And the reason is we are fully revamping. We're in the middle of a full rebrand, restructuring the entire operation, ready to go big in 2022. But if we're in a city where there are, MMA media members, MMA personalities, I'm going to start calling people out.
Yeah.
Start challenging people.
Oh.
And this is a friendly challenge. For those that, some guys really do enjoy the training, I think they'll be a little more open to it. But for some guy, why not? Like, you're in the fight business. You love fighting. You love covering it. You're a huge fan. Let's try and take that to the next level. It doesn't matter if you win or lose at the end, right?
Rich, what you're saying is actually one of the greatest ideas. I'm not saying it in any way, at all to, to belittle anybody, but it gives that person an experience in what it's like to prepare, to go through all this training, to prepare for a moment where you've got to walk out in front of other people and perform. And it's not just the fight itself. It's all the things that go with it. And the one, it's one of the things, when I went to the Gracie Academy for the first time, I was like Josh, I was like, no one's beating me. And I got armbarred and it was like, how the frick did you do that? But as soon as that happened, I've got to learn this, and I've got to start to better myself because I can't let that guy do that to me. And then it's going to happen again. And every time you tap, you're saying, you got me, you got my life. And then you just redo it again. But that makes you a better person. And it makes you a better person every time you're in the gym doing that over and over, because it does bring you to a point of you're humble. You know that you can be beat. And then in the whole world, you look and you go, most of those people, they can't come close to beating me. And I don't have to prove myself. And I think what you're saying with some of, people in the fight game, I think it'd be a great thing for them. And I'm not saying that I'm trying to push someone there. I do think what you guys do has an incredible value to it.
Oh, thank you. And look, I think even outside of transforming somebody, giving them confidence, helping them get through a tough time, get just the basic knowledge, for certain media members. I'm not calling anyone out, just in general.
Oh, I have some ideas, buddy.
I think I kind of have an idea on that one, but I'm not saying.
I'm not trying to paint you into a corner.
Look, there's a reason why you guys have the roles you have and have, congrats on this platform that you guys have been growing tremendously, because you guys know what you're talking about. You know what you're watching. You know what it's like. But, there's just certain moments where I'm like, this guy is telling me this is the next great fighter, or this fight is this and that, and he doesn't even know how to get out of side control. You know what I mean? Like it just would be helpful for a lot of people in the industry to just have this knowledge of the sport. It's really turning that fandom into participation. And again, I'm not calling anyone out. This isn't meant to be insulting. This is an offer to help
make you better.
Love the game, that cover it for a living, or in various capacities are in this industry, to just help learn. It's fun. Like I enjoy the training. It's fun. So this isn't a call out in that way. This is a respectful, fun challenge. Let's train, guys. Let's train. Let's learn. Let's all just hang out on the mat. There's no better place.
Podcast Dave lives in Austin now. Do you guys have any type of? There you go. He lives in Austin. Give me some knowledge there.
You have to rename the course for me. It's gonna have to.
I will pay. I will pay for this course for you.
I'll pay for it. I will pay for the course.
You're gonna have to.
I will pay. I'll pay for it twice.
Josh and I will pay for this course. Now, just once.
I will pay for it twice.
We're gonna have to rename it from Wimp to Warrior to Warrior to Elite, because I'm already a Warrior.
Oh,
Jesus! There it is. That's what we need to now alter, because
when you were talking about humbleness, this is what we're trying to get.
The pro wrestler Dave is now coming out.
Yeah. Well, Dave, if this makes you feel better, as part of our rebrand, I will, give you guys a scoop on this. We're moving towards warrior training.
Nice.
So, moving forward, I think the program will be known as warrior training. Dave, that just takes away your excuse, pal.
Dude, that's right. That's right. That's right up Podcast Dave's alley.
So
guys,
give me something in Austin.
We met with a gym that had a group that owns 3 gyms in the Texas area, 2 in Houston and 1 in Austin. So Beautiful. We are working on finalizing the deal and getting them on board with our big launch next year. So Dave, get ready, pal.
Yeah. Hey, here's the other thing.
We're going to make this happen.
I will personally come to the fight, baby.
Yes, because you won't do the call out, Rich. I'm going to do it, though. I want him to fight young Jamie. Joe Rogan, get your producer's ass up and let's go. I want to see Podcast Dave versus young Jamie. Hey. I want to see this fight.
I think we're onto something. Are they remotely in the same weight class?
Oh, yes, they are.
Dave's about 6 foot, 170. What are you, 180?
Oh, get that damn thing out of there, man.
This is so great. I love it.
Hey, Josh,
I'll put this in the link.
You hit those guys up. Obviously, Dave, you've been officially challenged and notified. Josh, you reach out to is it Jamie over?
Yeah,
on the
young
other side?
Jamie.
Young
Reach out to young
Jamie.
Jamie. Reach out to Joe. I think I'm obviously just pulling the poking the fun, but I think it'd be hilarious. I've always
It
given
wouldn't be
Brendan
hilarious. It would be awesome because
It
you
would
know
be
what?
awesome.
It would learn so much
Yes.
from it.
Tell
He
you
would.
what,
He would.
Why don't we try and set that up? I'm serious now. Like I know you're joshing a little bit, Josh, but
Oh, it's good. I like that.
no, but really, like, guys, why not? Like, have fun with it. What's the worst that can happen? You get in shape, you learn a lot.
Your
Hey,
wife
I mean-
looks at you finally and goes, "Yeah,
Yes.
there
man.
you go.
Hey.
There you go, podcast Dave."
Perhaps you guys could, we're going to start exploring this idea as we partner with various charities and whatnot. But hey, maybe
That's-
it's to create awareness for a charity. Maybe it's, you can have people support you and donate to a charity while you go through this.
This is
Oh, you know
perfect.
what we'll do? We'll have Joe pick out a charity. If Jamie wins, we pay to the charity.
Yes.
If podcast Dave's win, we pick a charity. Joe pays to our charity.
I think it's
I
a
like
brilliant
that.
idea.
It's brilliant.
This is great.
Hey,
Brilliant.
again, all positive, right? You
Yes,
tell
this is
me,
all
you
positive.
tell me where, one
That's
thing
it.
negative.
All right,
about
we're
this
Josh. You
challenge.
and I are going to Austin because we got to train up podcast Dave.
No.
Oh, man.
No, fellas, none of that. No sandbagging. The greener, the better. That's what this is. We don't want.
I gotcha. I think it's going to be wonderful if they were able to do something like this. I think it'd be a fun situation. Look, and I'm not just saying just young Jamie. I'm saying, but I would definitely pay for Dave to do this, and I would love what it really comes down to is just a commitment. Like Rich was saying, you don't have to fight at the end. It's just the commitment of training, understanding what the process is of going through the rigorous training, day in and day out, and understanding how
commitment.
tired you are. Yeah, it's a commitment. And I think it'd be wonderful just to have Dave go through it in terms of relationship with John and I as well. I think it's good. And then I think it'd be a great idea for if we can get some video footage and stuff like that to help. just to help show our listeners that, hey, podcast Dave's getting it done, man. Every day, grinding away. That's more than 99% of the people out in the United States right now that are sitting around on Twitter battling over stuff that we have no control over. I'd like, and like you said, like you sometimes just have to disconnect from that. And this is definitely a good way, to get people to pay attention more to, not just our show, but what you guys are doing, Wimps to Warrior and Warriors Training, and it'd be a great idea to help build this. So
Thanks,
I'd be
guys.
pumped.
Thanks for showing us some love. I've worked with a really great group of guys. Our CEO, he actually went through the program. His name's Nick Langton. He's in Australia. He went through the program in 2014. He was an investment banker, went through the program, fought, and after that said, "You guys just changed my life." Now he runs the company.
That's awesome.
Like it's crazy. He quit his very lucrative job. Like he just found this passion in his early 40s, and now runs the company. We recently brought in.
Did
Laura
you guys bring in Laura Senko?
Yeah, Laura. She's having her.
She's
moment
awesome.
right now. She's worked so hard for it.
She's
so
awesome.
Proud of her. She's amazing. Yeah, 40% of our competitors are women.
Wow.
Really?
We've seen with the growth of women's MMA, it makes sense, right? They're seeing these powerful, great women out there. The Juliana Velasquez's, Alima McFarland's of the world, and they're getting inspired. Chris Cyborg, right? They're seeing these women. They're like, you know what? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
It's empowering.
that. Yes. So we got, DC came on board recently. I mean, guys, I can't think of a better ambassador for MMA and wrestling than him. He's amazing. So we got a really powerful team, and we're just going to go for it, man, and try and get more people to train.
What do you think about, like you said with Laura Senko, is that she's now doing the cage-side commentary for some of the fights, and what's your take on? I think I'm going to just give my. I think it's amazing. I'm glad they put her in a position like this because she has fights. She knows the sport. She understands what's going on. She's been the backroom reporter. She's been in the hall reporter. She's done a lot of reporting about all these athletes and their styles of fighting and what they do. She understands the sport, and for her to work with you guys and for her to be put in this position, or sorry, not even put there, but for her to earn her way into that position.
Exactly. Work her way towards that.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, watch her. For those that haven't seen her fights, she has several amateur fights, fought a few times professionally, I believe, but go watch her training. She knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing. She knows martial arts. She knows fight culture, and she's worked very hard to, I'm sure, prove herself to a lot of people. And she's just a really great person that when we first met, because we came in around the same time. I came in, my boss had already been talking to her about joining the company, and I got a chance to know her, and I'm like, wow, what a great, humble, hardworking person who just loves this game, who loves MMA. And the more I get to know her, the more, I'm enjoying that process, and the more I'm impressed by just how great she is. And, she's not put there because she's a female. She's put there because she knows her stuff.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it's her time, and she's earned it. So, yeah, I don't think it's a stunt. I think it's certainly sustainable, that she can hang and that she can, sit in that seat for a very, very long time.
So before we close all this out, but I wanted to ask you something, is how do people find Wimps to Warrior? How do they get signed up in their areas and things like that in their country?
Wimp2warrior.com, and it's the 2 is the number 2.
Okay.
And of course on all social media platforms, on IG at Wimp to Warrior, Facebook, Twitter. That's how you can find us. Once you're there, you'll find out so much more information about the program, what we do, what it entails, and where we are. So we are international. And again, our movement here, our growth here, I think you're going to see really, really big things next year. We're working very hard right now to revamp the entire business to when we relaunch early next year. It's going to be just an amazing, seamless experience for everyone that joins. You're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to learn, and Podcast Dave is going to fight. So
there you go, baby.
Yeah. Let's go. Maybe Podcast Dave will bring his WWE belt. The very last thing I'm going to talk about or ask you about is your favorite moment working with BJ, whether fight or training or whatever. Favorite moment doing that. Favorite fight that he was involved in, and what is a fight? I don't care where and what is a fight
if you could make it?
If you could make it, and it doesn't matter, cross promotion, anytime in legacy that was to happen.
Man,
got a lot for you.
Good ones. Yeah.
Tough.
Moment, there's so many, man. There are so many, but I want to say his Hall of Fame induction. You were there.
Yeah.
I think that was awesome. I know he was very happy and thrilled with that. There's so many great fights, so many great moments. But outside of the cage, the Hall of Fame induction, man, that was a special moment with the whole family. A really fun reunion. Celebrating the amazing career and just getting everybody together again. And that was a fun moment. Favorite fight, man, that's a tough one. Maybe Renzo Gracie, Aloha Stadium. Again, just for that moment of being in the stadium, BJ always wanted to fight there. The family stepped up with K1 and made that happen. I think it was a big moment. The backstory there was tremendous. Him being a student of Half's, and Renzo, obviously being Half's brother. So in the jiu-jitsu community, which I'm just a huge jiu-jitsu guy. So that was like a big deal at the time. Hickson was in the corner with the family came out like, man, who is this one? This was a very big moment. Mike Tyson was there as a guest. It was just a really great moment. Very historic moment for Hawaii MMA to be at the stadium.
Yeah.
There was no world title on the line, world ranking on the line, but for me, for what we accomplished as a team to pull off that event and BJ ending it, with the win that night, it was that'll probably be it for me.
And what
And
about if there was one fight?
If you could make one fight.
Oh, wow. Well, I guess we got to go back to what started this conversation. Right?
I knew he was going to go there.
Come on.
I knew he was going to sit there and go, you're going to take the easy road, the one that we gave you.
See, John, I told you we should have been matchmakers, John. We should have.
Knew it.
Hey, work smart, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Don't work hard, work smart.
Yeah. So, look, okay, outside of that, since that fair play, that maybe that's not fair. BJ and who? I'm trying to think of a fight that we tried to book way back in the day.
You don't have to go.
It doesn't have to be BJ. It doesn't have to be
anybody
BJ.
you
Any
want.
fight you would ever want.
If you could match it right now, what would it be?
It could be hens. It could be anyone.
It could be any generation.
Yes.
BJ versus anyone in history.
No, just anybody.
No,
anybody. Not even BJ.
It doesn't have to be
anybody.
BJ.
It could be Mirko and Randleman or Mirko and Fedor. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like you could be Hoist Gracie versus Hungman Choi. I just want to hear what's your
Please don't
choice.
do that one.
I know.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that one. Man, that is guys. That's a tough one. Gosh. This fight keeps popping in my head, and I guess I got to go with it because it's speaking to me, and it'll probably throw you guys off. But kind of the one that got away.
Kurt Angle.
John, how the hell?
Come on, baby. It is, isn't it?
How the hell?
Right. I like it. Do it. Go.
No. You have to tell me. First of all, how did you?
That was a fight that I know that they had asked Hoist if he would take.
Yes. So yeah. So Kurt was doing some work with us. Really, I'm a great guy. I'm so glad I got a chance to get to know him. He was making some appearances when we were doing the fan fests, right?
Yep.
And his manager was just, we just one day started this conversation about him competing because he was, it had been a topic of discussion for years, and he started wrestling again on the indie circuit, and they sent me some footage of him, and he looked. It's one of those weird situations where you see the guy and he's all beat up, and he can't even walk, but then once he's in there, it's like couldn't even tell, right? Like he still had it, elite level athlete, and just you saw him, and then it was like, holy shit, okay, let's keep talking. And Kurt Angle versus Hoist Gracie was a fight that was talked about at one point. For me personally, it's one of the fun ones that got away. I would have loved to have seen that for several reasons. But yeah, U.S. Olympic gold medalist, against the godfather of MMA and a jiu-jitsu pioneer would have been pretty cool. Look, I know there's that's a fun one. And John, man, that's so crazy. No one would have guessed that, right? Come on.
No,
I would have never have. I would have never have guessed that ever.
Again, this is what happens when you're an MMA nerd. You know these things.
I consider myself a nerd, but I mean, that was just one of those things that I obviously wasn't privy to that information because I never really was into the Kurt Angle situation coming to MMA. I mean, and also too, as a fighter, you're not really concerned about guys that are outside your weight class. So at that time, I wasn't paying attention to the fact that like he was possibly coming. I knew I had seen him around Bellator a little bit. I think he came to the Kimbo and Dadav fight. I think he was there.
He was in Houston, and
he was in Houston. So I had interviewed him and talked to him a little bit there. Like you said, like you see him, he can barely walk and this and that. But then, like you said, when he gets on the wrestling mat, he just turns it on. Certain guys, I mean, the people that have met Hulk Hogan, they said the same thing about him. He could barely walk, but shit, when he got in the wrestling, when he got into the ring, it was like, okay, the Hulkamania lived on. It's just one of those things. So guys just have that switch that they can turn on. Some guys do and some guys don't. Obviously, Kurt Angle was one of them.
Well, that's a fun one. Let me give you one quick one that's, again, not this amazing. GSP and Anderson, of course. That's another one that I think we all would have liked to have seen. I don't want to look. I'll settle for seeing him box in a year or two when he can. But you know, come on, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well,
You know, 8-10 years ago, or you know, around that time, that would have been, you know, that's one I think got away from all of us as fans. But yeah,
I agree.
that for, you know, a highly competitive fight that has GOAT implications and whatnot, and the fun fight, Hoist versus Kurt Angle.
all right. Well, I lied. I can't leave you with that thing because you brought that fight up. You brought that fight up, and then that brings me right back. That brings me right back to the situation we were talking about with BJ. GSP was at the top of his game. Anderson Silva was at the top of his game. Look how difficult it was for someone to go up from 170 to 115. And BJ, if we're going to talk about it, BJ did it, like you said, from beating Gomi, who was considered to be the number one lightweight or number two or whatever, but it was the most talked about lightweight at the time in Japan and around the circuit. He beats Gomi and Rumble on the Rock, and 5 months or 4 months later, he beats Matt Hughes for the welterweight title, jumps 15 pounds, and goes against someone who's weighs more than him, is bigger than him, stronger than him, and all those things, and he made it look easy. That's the comparison that we're talking about. GSP and that generation of GSP, nothing, and I'm not knocking him. They don't want to take, they were thinking more about legacy, and they weren't thinking about, I just want to fight this guy because people are telling me that he's better than me, or people are saying he's better, that he's the GOAT, and I'm not. Like, that's something that BJ would have jumped on right from the get. He would be like, oh yeah, I'm at 170. He's at 185. And you're saying he's better than me? I get that guy down. He's done.
Yeah.
You know, and
no talk of catch weights, nothing like that. He would have just said, I'll fight you at your weight. I mean, he fought Lyoto. I think Lyoto weighed 225 and BJ weighed 185. He just didn't care. He just didn't care. And I understand why that fight never happened, right? You know, but again, to speak to the balls, heart, again, as we said earlier, right, John, some people would say stupidity, but we view it as balls and heart.
You gotta love it.
And courage. He just wanted to fight, man. Anybody, anytime, anywhere. Not too many guys have lived up to that mantra, but certainly he has. So
when you look back at his career, what comes to mind?
Just that, like a guy whose genius is never going to be truly appreciated. A very complex dude who did it his way. And I think we get him, right, guys? Yeah. We get it. But if your job is to write and cover this sport, you know, maybe you're not going to appreciate that. You know, you want to hear about 29-0.
No, all you're looking at is numbers.
You want to hear, which I get that as well. Like, sure. I understand it all. This is, again, your favorite fighter's favorite fighter, man. Ask him. Him. Yeah. Chances are he's going to be in that sentence and that on that list. So yeah, it's just a great dude who, I mean, we didn't even talk about him winning the Mundials, being the first foreigner to ever do that, right? It's like, an amazing dude who broke barriers, always went for it, and just put it all on the line. He either blew you away or he frustrated the hell out of you. And you know what? I think at the end of the day, right?
No, like, I know, good.
Man. Oh my God, you could have beat, like,
what are you doing?
Yeah.
But you know what? I think at the end of the day, I think he's comfortable with that, man. I think he's comfortable with how things have played out and where he's at, right? You guys know him. Josh, you saw him recently. You guys just had him on, right?
If
I'm wrong, tell me now, but I feel like he's a man who's at peace with this all, because
he said it perfectly. What he said was, you know, I did this, then I had to go back and find ways to motivate myself again, and then I did it again. And then I had to go back and find ways to motivate myself. You're always, as you become successful, become champion. He's the Mundials champion, like he's the champion in Jiu-Jitsu Worlds. He wins the championship. Then he goes and he becomes, he fights for the UFC title in just his fourth fight. He loses, comes up short, but then, he goes and he beats Gomi. Then he comes back, beats Matt Hughes. Then he goes and he beats all the Gracies and does all these things, right? It's like, then he has to find ways to motivate himself again. Comes back and he beats Sean Scher, Kenny Florian, Diego Sanchez, Joe Daddy Stevenson. He beats all those guys. He gets to Frankie Edgar. Nothing against Frankie, and Frankie's one of my closest friends. It's like, okay, look, he's done it 5, 4, 5, whatever times. He's been the champion at welterweight. He's fought in K1. He's fought in Aloha Stadium against the Gracies. Yeah. He's having to find ways to motivate himself, over time. And and it's hard. It gets harder and harder every single time you become successful in everything that you do.
Yeah, victim. The way you broke it down there so well, he's a victim of his own success, right? I don't know if he mentioned this with you guys, but he said it before when he beat Matt Hughes the first time and won the belt. He never expected, like, he could have just called it right then and there, like some kid from a tiny little island, never expected to even get there, right? Like for him, that was like, the book could have ended right there, and he just would have been like completely satisfied with that. But again, he took it to a whole nother level. So yeah, perhaps victim of his own success, constantly chasing that rush and that challenge of now who's the next guy that everyone says is the baddest on the planet. He's probably scared a little bit to fight too, right? Like, remember he went back to the UFC in large part, I think, after the dispute with the UFC with the contract. Remember his first fight was George. At that time, George was smashing everybody.
That's it.
And he was it went from, like, I felt like BJ from a technical stat, like he was the modern guy, right? Like we were talking about that earlier, Josh, what you guys were doing at AKA Hav and Bob. You guys were creating this modern MMA fighter. And then George was like, oh, wait till you take all those skills and match them with supreme athleticism. Wait till you see what you can get there. Yeah. And then he's like, that guy? Yeah, let's do it right now. Dana, bring me back, please. I messed up. What was I thinking? Yeah. I got this out of the way. I cheated on you. It's out of my system. I'm ready to come home.
Ready to go.
And because because I think in large part that was motivated by, I want to fight GSP.
Yeah. Because he was the buzz.
Yeah, I want him. And, that just kind of sums it up. And I think when he was a kid, he did the same thing probably. He would be, probably walking around Hilo, and big guys were like, hey, what's up? He's like, thought you never asked, man. Shit, let's go. Like, that's him, right? Like,
yeah, it is.
The fight, man. So, a complicated legacy that I think he's comfortable with, that I think guys like us appreciate. Mm-hmm. And just a very, when it's all said and done, when we look back, hopefully other people after us, the historians, the guardians of this thing, they'll feel the same way, because that guy deserves it.
Yeah, because outside of fighting, people need to remember that he has 4 UFC gyms in across Hawaii's. He's also got his own BJ Penn, training center there in Hilo, which I think is now going to be converted into a UFC gym here shortly as well. He has all these successful business ventures that are outside of just fighting itself, not to mention a family, and his family is very close, as there's been a lot that has been staked on him as well, in terms of relationships with his family, and the growth of everything that they did together. The Rumble on the Rock was a family venture pretty much, they did all that.
They put it all on the line for their son to do these amazing things and fight his dream fights.
Insane.
It was crazy. Like Aloha, the Aloha Stadium show, why part of that was because I know what they did to put it all on the line. I know what went into all that behind the scenes, why it was so meaningful to us, because they really, they loved their son so much and believed in him so much. A lot of people don't know that, but shout out to Auntie Lorraine and Pop for supporting their kids. And through that process, I was able to get into the industry and learn. And without them, I'm not here, guys. So, my relationship with him is one that I really, really value, and on a personal level and professionally, man, if it wasn't for that family, I definitely wouldn't be here.
People forget that his brother Reagan was a world champion as a blue belt, correct?
Yeah,
Reagan. Yeah, so he was a blue belt, and then his older brother had the potential of being probably even. There was talk. I mean, I had trained with him a couple of times, but he ended up having a pinched nerve in his neck, and his arm started to atrophy from all the training in jiu-jitsu. But he had JD, who had the potential of being a stud fighter. He was a scrapper, man. Scrapper, and just phenomenal on the ground as well. I mean, that family themselves, just, they loved to train jiu-jitsu, but they loved to fight, but they were ingrained in what this was. But they were all very close niche, and they were really good friends with yourself and as with me as well. But just great people, great family, and mom and pops as well.
Yeah, Rich, want to tell you, thank you so much for your time, and I miss you. I miss being able to talk to you all the time, man. But you are absolutely one of the best at what you do as the matchmaker in Bellator, for Strike Force, for Elite XC. You were always fantastic. You treated the fighters the right way. You always tried to put the right things together. And I know you're going to be incredibly successful with Warriors Training or Wimps to Warriors, whatever they want to change it to. But thank you for everything you've done in the sport, and thank you for being the guy that you are.
Well, thank you guys. It's truly an honor to be here chatting with you guys. I miss you, John. I don't miss Josh.
He doesn't miss me because he sees me all the time. That's why he doesn't miss me. He sees me all the time.
You're like a fungus, Josh.
Yeah. Can't shake me,
proud
man.
of you guys for growing this platform. I've been following your journey. It's hard work. It's, you guys built this from scratch, and I'm proud of you guys for, creating this opportunity, creating this platform, and you guys continuing to evolve from your different careers, from being the best referee in the history of the sport to now an elite level commentator, to having a successful podcast, Josh, from a championship fighting career, an elite fighting career, to now, joining John on the production side and having this great podcast. I'm proud of you guys, man. That's what it's all about, is continuing to grow the sport, even when you're done doing what you started doing and finding these other ways. So I'm trying to do it. You guys inspire me. And hey, let's all just keep this moving, huh? Keep it flowing.
Wimp to Warrior. The 2 is a 2, the number 2. So it's wimptowarrior.com. Go there, check it out. And
we will be sending you podcast days information right after we cut off.
Let's go. Thanks, fellas.
All right,
good talking to you, brother.
Thanks, man. Talk soon.
Well, that was a great conversation with a guy that I absolutely love as a person. I've been lucky enough to work with him, Josh. I know he is one of your best friends, a guy that you spend a lot of time with. You cannot say enough about the quality of character and the person that Rich Chou is. Yeah,
not just him. He is one of my closest friends. BJ is also one of my closest friends that I continue to talk with. Like I said, I was tweeting with him earlier before we actually did the show, and even before we were talking about having him on today. So the fact that we got both of them on at the same day was remarkable, and I'm glad that it worked out. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Look, this was in no way, like we talked about, a matchmaking experience. What it is just showing the history of somebody that I have a lot of respect for inside and outside of the cage, and a friendship with BJ. And I have a big friendship as well with Rich Chou and all the things that he's helped done for my career. And that means a lot to me, a lot of the stuff that he has said that we have talked about as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this show. It's definitely something that's different than what other shows do. And they bring on a matchmaker as well as get in depth with him, as well as somebody who's had the opportunity to work with someone as high level as BJ Penn from the beginning of his career and all the things that he helped do. So I really hope you guys enjoyed the show, because this show was actually really close to my heart, and it was a great show to be part of.
I got a question for you before we leave, though, because Rich came up with a great thing. He was the fighter that was the favorite fighter of the fighters of today.
Yeah.
Give me 5 that you believe fit that category, because I think I have them.
5 guys that fit the category for who?
For
that would be
the favorite fighter of guys that are fighters of now. Or even in the past.
Oh, okay. I mean, a lot of them are going to say GSP, Anderson Silva, BJ Penn. Some of them, those would be the top 3, I think. I would say
I'm there with you, and I think the other ones are Randy Couture and Fedor Emelianenko.
Okay, so I'm not going to say Fedor, because Fedor never fought in the UFC, and a lot of the fans right now and the fighters
No, this has nothing to do with fans. This is fighters.
No, I know, I understand
favorite fighter of the fighters.
This generation didn't follow. I don't think this generation saw the Fedor fights.
Oh, I think a lot of them did.
I think it was a little bit before that. I think this generation of fighters right now are still part of that BJ
Who do you think Khabib's favorite fighter was?
But you're talking about Russia, though.
It doesn't matter. There's a lot of guys from Russia.
The other thing, though, too,
dude. Russia's got
fighter.
A whole lot of people.
That's one fighter, though. That's one fighter. The bigger market of fighters in the UFC were not from Russia until recently.
Well, but there was a bigger market of
Your argument is
pride
wrong.
fighters. No, I'm not wrong.
Your
I'm going to go.
argument
It's
is wrong.
Randy Couture.
I think Randy's in there.
Randy Couture, Fedor. I thought you were right with GSP, right with BJ Penn, and right with Anderson Silva. So
Yeah.
you were right. I'm giving you credit for being right 3 times.
No, I'm normally right, but that's for this or that. We'll figure it out. No, I understand what you're talking about with Fedor, but I think you're going to find that it's going to be more with the Russian fighters. But there's more of them now than there was before. This generation of Russian fighters, they watched them fight, but a lot of the other fighters, whether they were Brazilian, whether they were American or Japanese or anywhere Canadian, a lot of them had seen Fedor fight because he didn't fight in the States. And remember when he fought in Japan, a lot of it was at 2-3 in the morning.
And another guy that you could put in that is Royce Gracie.
Yeah, that's the legendary. That's the beginner of the sport kind of thing, and you can't knock that. Yeah, you're gonna find some of them. Maybe Matt that might have even think Matt Hughes.
True.
Matt was just such a dominant welterweight champion.
Yep.
So if I was to put in that mix of all of those fighters, those are the top guys as of right now. But I think the generation next will be those fighters. Their favorite fighters will be a Khabib, will be a John Jones, will be probably still that Anderson Silva. Some of them may even say a Conor McGregor and a
Cormier,
a Cormier, a Stipe for sure. So those guys, good stuff, man.
Yeah.
I wonder how many have a Frank Shamrock. Because Frank Shamrock was a little bit before the Fedor thing too. It was kind of around that Fedor era, but he was
a little bit before.
That. Yeah. Anyways, but hey, hopefully you guys enjoy this show. Please go to prowrestlingtees.com/WayneIn. Use the promo code and still pick up any of our shirts. All of them are in different colors. We have our logo that you see Big John wearing right now. And we also have our original logo up there, which is very simple. It just says Weighing In a circle. It's a great one as well. It's one of my favorites, actually, the original logo, but I like this logo as well. It comes in all different colors. You have a red one and a blue one. It comes in different colored shirts as well. We have the American flag one. I think you're wearing the Independence Day one.
I am.
I don't know if you've got them all different colors, so enjoy.
You can't do the Independence Day.
We can't do the Independence Day.
But you can buy it from me.
Discounted price. It's been worn and sweating.
Hey,
oh geez,
perfect.
Hey, so go to prowrestlingtees.com/WayneIn. Use the promo code and still get additional 20% off when you use that promo code. And you guys enjoy our shirts. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. And John,
just want to say thank you to BJ Penn and Rich Chou. You guys are awesome, and everyone out there. Hope you enjoyed, and we will see you